The scream broke through the quiet compound like a blade of lightning cutting across a dark sky. "Please stop, it hurts, please." Zuri's voice trembled as she shielded herself with her arms, staggering backward until her shoulder hit the wooden cabinet behind her. Her breath was shaky, her eyes wide with fear, and every part of her body screamed for safety that refused to come. Kelechi stepped closer, chest rising and falling with a rage that seemed to have no origin and no restraint. His face twisted, jaw clenched, and he pointed at her as if she was the enemy who had dared to provoke him. "Don't stand there pretending like you don't know what you're doing," he thundered, his voice loud enough for the neighbors to hear through the thin walls. "You want to pretend you're innocent? You've been tempting me with your attitude for weeks." Zuri's heart broke at how easily he twisted the story, his version so far from truth that it felt like a different universe. All she had done was tell him she couldn't lend him more money she didn't even have, and somehow he turned it into a personal attack. She had seen his anger before, but not like this. Tonight was different. Tonight, he looked like a man fighting a battle inside himself, and she was a target. "I didn't do anything," she whispered, her voice cracking as she fought the tears burning her throat. "Kelechi, please, just stop. You're hurting me." But her words did not calm him. If anything, they fueled him further. He grabbed the drinking glass on the table and threw it across the room. It shattered against the floor, tiny pieces scattering across the tiles, like sharp reminders of her fear. The sound echoed in her mind like a warning bell. "You think you can embarrass me?" he shouted. "You think you're better than me because you have a job? Because people respect you?" His words hit her harder than anything else. Kelechi had always been insecure, but she never imagined it would boil over like this, into something that made her question how she got here. She pressed her palm to her chest, trying to calm her racing heartbeat. "Kelechi, I'm begging you," she whispered again. "Please, I'm not your enemy." He lifted his hand, not to strike her again, but to point accusingly. "You're always talking back, always acting righteous, always pretending like you're perfect. But look at you now. Cry like a guilty person." Her tears finally slipped free. "I'm crying because you're scaring me. Because you know what you've been doing," he barked. She flinched. It didn't matter what she said. He had already chosen the version of reality he wanted. And in his twisted version, he was the victim, the injured man forced to defend himself against a woman he claimed was provoking him. Even in her shock, Zuri felt a small, stubborn flame flicker inside her. She wasn't provoking him. She wasn't tempting him. She wasn't leading him on. She was simply tired. Tired of being blamed for emotions she didn't cause, actions she didn't deserve, and accusations that made no sense. When he stepped closer again, she closed her eyes, bracing for more shouting, more accusations, more unpredictable anger. But instead of striking her again, he stopped and breathed heavily, his chest heaving like an athlete who had run too far. "Just stay out of my way," he muttered, turning toward the door. But as he opened it, he turned back with a final blow, not physical, but verbal, sharp enough to slice through her spirit. "And if you tell anyone what happened, you'll regret it. Nobody will believe you. I'll tell them you provoked me, that you were the one pushing me, and they'll believe me." Then he slammed the door, leaving her in the stillness of the broken room. For a long time, Zuri couldn't move. Her legs trembled too violently to carry her weight. She slid to the floor, knees hitting the tiles, and finally let the tears come freely. She cried not just from pain, but from disbelief. Disbelief that someone she trusted, someone she helped, someone she gave her kindness to, could twist her life into something so cruel and humiliating. But the worst part wasn't the pain from the assault. The worst part was the fear that he was right. What if no one believed her? She ran her fingers through her braids, forcing herself to breathe deeply, refusing to let despair swallow her whole. She didn't know how long she sat on that cold tile floor, her back against the cabinet, her thoughts spinning into chaos. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Her sense of time had shattered with the glass on the floor. Her mind replayed his words over and over, each one as poisonous as the last. "You provoked me. You tempted me. You pushed me. I'll tell everyone." His lies wrapped around her like vines strangling her voice. She wanted to scream that none of it was true. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear. but she also wanted justice. Not necessarily punishment, not revenge, just justice, just truth. But how? How could she fight someone who could twist any story into a lie that sounded believable? She stood slowly, wiping her eyes with trembling fingers. Her legs still shook, but she forced herself to walk to the window and pull the curtain aside. Outside, life continued normally. Children played, neighbors gossiped, motorcycles zoomed past. But inside her home, reality had cracked open, and she understood something clearly now. This was not just anger. This was not just a fight. This was not just a misunderstanding. This was who he truly was. The kind of person who hurt you and then blamed you for the scars. The kind of person who broke you and then told the world you were the glass. A cold chill washed down her spine. She couldn't live like this. She wouldn't. Just as she was cleaning the shattered glass from the floor, her phone buzzed. When she saw the name on the screen, her younger brother, Adewale, she froze. She couldn't let him hear her voice like this. She couldn't let anyone know. Not yet. But the phone kept buzzing, vibrating insistently on the table. Zuri closed her eyes, inhaled, exhaled, and picked it up. "Auntie Zuri, were you?" Adewale asked, sounding cheerful. "I'm passing your area and want to surprise you." Her throat tightened, but she forced her voice to sound normal. "Not today, Adewale. I'm tired." "Tired? Are you okay?" "Yes," she lied quickly. "I'm fine." But her voice wavered. Adewale noticed. "Zuri, what happened?" Her breath caught. Should she tell him? Would he believe her? Before she could answer, her front door swung open. It wasn't Adewale. It was Kelechi, standing there again, eyes dark, face cold, and lips curled. He stepped inside slowly, as if he owned the air she breathed, and Zuri's entire body froze. Zuri felt her pulse slam against her ribs a moment. Kelechi stepped back into the house. She stared at him, unable to move, unable to breathe properly, her hand still gripping the phone with Adewale, calling her name through the tiny speaker. Her voice had abandoned her. Only fear remained, cold, sharp, and suffocating. Kelechi didn't speak at first. He simply stood there, one hand on the doorknob, his gaze sweeping the room, from the shattered pieces she hadn't finished picking up, to the pillow on the floor, to her swollen eyes. He saw everything, and the cold smirk that tugged at his lips made her stomach twist into knots. "End the call," he said quietly, almost too calmly. It was the kind of calm that felt more dangerous than any shout. Zuri forced herself to swallow. "Adewale, I'll call you back later," she whispered, hoping he wouldn't hear the quiver in her voice. "Zuri, wait, are you Sue?" She ended the call quickly. The silence that followed was thick, heavy, almost alive. Kelechi shut the door behind him and leaned on it, locking it casually as though he had every right to be there. She didn't understand why he came back. Didn't he cause enough pain? Didn't he say he was leaving? She stepped back slowly, her heel bumping the leg of a chair. "Kelechi, why are you here?" His eyes narrowed. "Why am I here?" "To make sure you don't start running your mouth outside. You think I don't know how people like you react? A little argument, and suddenly you want to start exposing things." Zuri's chest tightened. "I don't want to expose anything. I just want to be safe." "Safe?" He laughed, a sound that didn't match any joy. "You're safe as long as you don't start misbehaving." Her breath shook. "You hurt me." "Because you provoked me," he snapped instantly. "You stood there, talking back, raising your voice, acting like you're the only one who knows anything. Of course you pushed me to it." Her eyes burned. "I didn't push you to anything." He exhaled sharply, irritated by her attempts at truth. "If people hear that we argued, who do you think they'll believe? Me or you?" He stepped closer, and she took another step back. "You know I can spin this story however I want. I can tell the landlord you threatened me. I can tell the neighbors you insulted my family. I can tell anyone you've been trying to seduce me. They'll believe me. They always believe the man." She clenched her jaw to keep her voice from cracking. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're not going to ruin my life," he said coldly. Zuri shivered. The realization hit her like a gust of icy wind. Kelechi didn't just want to escape blame. He wanted control. He wanted fear. He wanted silence. And he would twist anything, truth, lies, even her own pain, to get it. "Kelechi, I just want to be left alone," she whispered. He stared at her for a long, tense moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. "Fine, I'll leave." He turned toward the door, unlocked it, and halfway through opening it, he shot her a look that froze her in place. "Just remember, if you talk, I talk, and I'll talk louder." Then he walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click, but the echoes of his threat bounced through the house. Zuri stood there, unable to move, unable to think. Her body still trembled. Her heart still pounded. Her breath still refused to settle. At last, she collapsed into the nearest chair, burying her face in her palms. Everything inside her felt like it was breaking. Her trust, her safety, her belief in people. But even through the shaking, a single thought pushed through the fog. She couldn't let him win. She couldn't allow his lies to suffocate her truth. She couldn't let fear dictate the rest of her life. She couldn't continue living in the shadow of someone else's aggression. But she didn't know where to begin. Her phone buzzed again. Adewale. This time, she answered. "Sister, something is wrong. I can hear it." His voice was calmer now, but firm. "What happened? Talk to me." Zuri hesitated, the tension gripping her throat like a tightening rope. She wanted to tell him everything, but the fear of disbelief, the shame, the panic, all of it tangled inside her. She wanted to be strong. She wanted to act normal, but she couldn't pretend anymore. "Adewale," she whispered, her voice barely audible. He hurt me." There was a long silence on the other end, a silence filled with shock, anger, and worry. "I'm coming," he said finally. "No," Zuri said quickly. "No, please don't come. Not now. I don't want any trouble." "Trouble?" Adewale's voice sharpened. "The trouble already came, and it wasn't from me. Zuri, tell me where you are. I'm coming to get you out of there." "I just need time," she said softly. "Please." Adewale exhaled loudly. She could almost picture him running a hand over his head, frustrated but holding himself together. "Okay, I'll give you a little time. But you're not staying there long. I'm checking on you again in 1 hour." "Thank you," she whispered. When the call ended, Zuri leaned back against the chair. She allowed herself a long moment of stillness. Her breathing steadied slightly. Her fingers unclenched. Her thoughts started forming again, slowly, painfully, but clearly. She needed a plan. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. She stood, wiped her face, and gathered what strength she had left. She cleaned the remaining glass from the floor. She changed into fresh clothes. She packed a small bag quietly, just a few essentials she would need if she left. Her hands trembled as she zipped the bag, but she kept going. She was terrified, but she was determined. Then, just as she took a deep breath and reached for the door, a loud knock shook the entire house. Her blood ran cold. It was heavy, hard, angry. It wasn't Adewale. It wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't someone checking on her. She knew that knock. It was the knock of a man who came back, because he wasn't finished. Zuri's heart dropped into her stomach. "Kelechi," she whispered under her breath. She stared at the door, frozen, hearing his voice on the other side. Low, sharp, dangerous. "Zuri, open this door. Now." Her breath caught. His tone told her everything. Tonight wasn't over. Zuri's hand hovered in the air, halfway between retreat and courage, her breath trembling as she stared at the door. Kelechi's voice was no longer just angry. It was thick with entitlement, a sound that carried the weight of someone who believed he still had control over her life. "Zuri," he repeated, sharper this time, hitting the door once more with his fist. "I said open this door. Don't make me say it again." She felt her knees shake. Her eyes darted to her pack bag on the sofa. Every instinct told her to run, but there was nowhere to run inside a locked house. Her breath came in shallow waves as possibilities flashed through her mind. She could stay silent. She could pretend not to be inside. She could ignore him until he left. But deep down, she knew Kelechi was not the kind of man who walked away when ignored. He was the kind who escalated, the one who grew louder when denied. She stepped back cautiously, pressing herself against the wall. The house suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in around her. The knocking grew louder, not frantic, but firm and unforgiving. Each strike a reminder that he felt entitled to enter her space, to demand access, to claim authority. "Zuri, open this door before I break it," he growled. Her heart pounded. She bit her lower lip, trying to steady herself. She knew if she opened that door, she would be giving him the power to further manipulate her. But if she didn't open it, if he tried to force his way in, the situation could become even more dangerous. Fear curled around her like smoke. She reached toward her phone with trembling hands. She wanted to call Adewale again, wanted his voice to cut through her fear, but she worried that if she made a sound, Kelechi would hear it and grow even more aggressive. She took a slow breath. Then she did the one thing she had never done before. She stepped closer to the door and spoke first. "Kelechi, leave," she said, her voice soft but steady enough to surprise even herself. "I'm not opening the door." There was a pause, thick and heavy. Then a bitter laugh floated through the wood. "You think you can give me instructions now? After everything? You don't get to tell me what to do." "Kelechi, please," she whispered. "Just go home." "Home? And leave you here to start forming victim? To start running your mouth to people? To start pretending I hurt you?" His tone sharpened with every word. "Open this door." "I'm not opening it," she said again, this time louder, stronger. Another pause. Silence. Deep, eerie silence. She didn't know if that was a good sign or the worst sign. Then, "Zuri, don't make me angry." "You're already angry," she said quietly, tears gathering in her eyes. "Open the door." "No." A violent thud shook the door. Zuri gasped, stumbling back. He had kicked it. Hard. Her body trembled. But she forced herself to think. If he got inside, she wouldn't be safe. If she stayed silent, he would break the door, and that would only make things worse. She needed help. With shaking fingers, she dialed Adewale. He picked instantly. "Zuri, what's happening?" "He's back," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Kelechi is outside the door. He's trying to force his way in." Adewale's voice shifted from worry to protective rage within seconds. "Stay away from the door. I'm coming now." "Adewale." "I said I'm coming now," he repeated firmly. "Don't open that door. Don't speak to him again. I'm on the way." The call ended abruptly. Another loud kick rattled the door. Then another. Kelechi's voice thundered from outside. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Zuri covered her mouth to silence her sobs. She looked around the room desperately, searching for anything she could use to protect herself. Her eyes landed on the heavy mop, leaning against the wall. Not a weapon, but something. She grabbed it with trembling hands and stepped back from the door. Minutes felt like hours. Her heart counted each passing second. Her breath held on to every echo. Her mind whispered every fear she had tried to ignore. Then suddenly, the knocking stopped. Silence. A deep, unnerving silence that made her chest tighten. She waited, still gripping the mop, her hands sweating, her breath lodged somewhere between her chest and her throat. Then she heard it, not from the door, from her window. A faint sound outside. Footsteps. Shuffling. She stiffened, realizing the terrible possibility. Kelechi might be trying to get in another way. She rushed to the window, but stayed out of sight, peeking only slightly. And what she saw made her knees buckle. Kelechi was outside the window, scanning the area, checking if anyone was watching. He looked furious, eyes wild, lips curled in a snarl, fists clenched. He looked ready to break the glass if he had to. Before he could act, the sound of cars screeched near the compound. Then a door slammed. Adewale's voice tore through the air like thunder. "Kelechi, step away from that window." Kelechi spun around. Zuri's hand flew to her chest. Relief washed through her so quickly she nearly cried. Adewale approached in long, furious strides, shoulders squared, eyes blazing. "What is wrong with you? Why are you banging on my sister's door? Why are you at her window?" Kelechi tried to mask his fear with anger. Your sister has been disrespectful. She needs to learn. Adewale cut him off. No, what she needs is protection from you. You don't know what she did. Kelechi shouted. You touched my sister, Adewale said, his voice low and dangerous. And you're still standing here making excuses? You are lucky I don't drag you to the police station this second. Zuri couldn't hear every word clearly through the window, but she heard enough to know Adewale wasn't backing down. For the first time since the incident began, she felt something close to safety blooming inside her chest. Kelechi stepped back slightly, but he kept trying to defend himself. She provoked me. She... Shut your mouth, Adewale snapped. You don't get to blame the person you hurt. If you ever come near her again, you will not like what follows. Kelechi looked shaken, defensive, angry, embarrassed. But he also realized something. The cover of silence had been broken. Someone knew. Someone was confronting him. Someone was no longer afraid of him. He muttered something under his breath and turned away, walking off with heavy steps. Steps that tried to look confident but shook slightly with humiliation. Zuri exhaled shakily as she watched him disappear. Minutes later, Adewale knocked gently on her door. Zuri, it's me. Open. She unlocked the door slowly. The moment she saw her brother's face, full of concern, anger, and protective love, her strength finally broke. She fell into his arms, sobbing, shaking uncontrollably. Adewale held her tightly. It's okay, he whispered. You're safe now. I'm here. I'm not leaving you again. She cried harder, her body releasing hours of fear and tension. And for the first time since the night began, she believed him. She was no longer alone. She was no longer silent. And she was no longer under Kelechi's control. Adewale pulled back slightly, wiping her tears gently. Pack your bag, he said firmly. You're leaving this place. You're coming home with me. And whatever happens next, we handle it together. Zuri nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Thank you. As she looked around the room one last time, she knew this moment was more than escape. It was a beginning of her fight for freedom. It was a beginning of her truth, rising from the shadows. And it was a beginning of a journey Kelechi never expected her to take. If you're listening to this story right now, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Well for more powerful stories that touch the heart and speak truth to life. Your support helps us keep creating these emotional journeys. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Zuri woke up the next morning in Adewale's guest room, her eyelids heavy and swollen from a night before. The early sunlight crept in quietly, stretching across the pale curtains and falling gently onto the bedspread. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the distant laughter of children outside. It felt unreal, almost like she was in someone else's life. Yet the ache in her chest reminded her that everything was painfully real. Her brother's home was peaceful, warm, and filled with the kind of quiet safety she had forgotten existed. But even here, with walls that protected her and a door she could lock, she felt that lingering tremor inside, the one trauma leaves behind. Every movement made her body flinch. Every shadow made her mind question whether she was truly safe. She sat upright slowly, pulling her knees to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. A part of her felt weak for feeling this way. Another part of her knew she was stronger than she had ever been. She had left, she had spoken, and she had survived. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Zuri, Adewale's voice, gentle but firm. She cleared her throat. Yes, I'm awake. He opened the door slightly and peeked inside, his face warm with concern. I made breakfast. You don't have to come out if you're not ready, but I wanted you to know it's there. Zuri nodded. Thank you. He stepped inside fully, closing the door behind him. How are you feeling? It was such a simple question, yet impossible to answer. She sighed deeply. I don't know. Part of me feels relieved. Another part feels like I'm falling apart. Adewale sat beside her on the edge of the bed. You're not falling apart. You're healing. That's what this feels like at the beginning. Zuri stared at her fingers, twisting them slowly. I keep hearing his voice. Every time I close my eyes, I remember him pounding on the door, shouting, trying to force his way in. Adewale clenched his jaw, anger simmering beneath his calm facade. If he tries it again, I'll handle it myself. I promise. No, she said quickly, placing a shaky hand on his arm. I don't want violence. I don't want revenge. I just want him far away from me. He nodded. Then that's what we'll make happen. She exhaled shakily. People might ask questions. Let them ask, Adewale said sharply. You owe nobody an explanation about your trauma. His words soothed something inside her. For once, someone wasn't asking her to stay quiet, to protect someone else's reputation, to endure for the sake of peace. He was on her side, fully, unconditionally. After a few minutes, Zuri stood and walked to the mirror. She looked at herself, puffy eyes, slightly bruised cheek, tired expression, and felt a wave of sadness wash over her. But she also saw strength beneath the surface, a quiet determination rising slowly, like the sun creeping into the room. She showered, dressed in fresh clothes Adewale's wife had left for her, a soft blue blouse and loose black trousers, and stepped out into the living room. The smell of scrambled eggs, toasted bread, and tea drifted through the air. Adewale's wife, Amara, looked up from the dining table and smiled warmly. My sister, come and eat. Zuri felt her throat tighten. Amara had always been gentle, soft-spoken, and full of kindness. But today, her eyes held a hint of sorrow. Sorrow for what Zuri endured, sorrow that she hadn't known sooner, sorrow that she couldn't protect her. Zuri sat down slowly. Amara placed a cup of hot tea in front of her, her voice low and soothing. Drink this. It will calm your chest. Thank you, Zuri whispered. For a while they ate in silence. Adewale watched her with protective eyes, as if checking every second to ensure she was okay. Amara reached over occasionally to squeeze Zuri's hand gently. It felt like the first moment of safety she had felt in a long time. After breakfast, Adewale leaned back in his chair. Zuri, we need to talk about what happens next. Zuri looked down at her cup again. Her hands trembled around it. I know, she whispered. Adewale continued. Kelechi is not going to keep quiet. Men like him don't walk away peacefully. He's already telling people lies. He's already trying to twist the story. I know, Zuri said again, her voice weaker this time. Amara leaned forward. My sister, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. If he lies, we will stand by you. People will hear the truth eventually. It might be slow, but it will come. Tears pricked Zuri's eyes again. I don't want my name dragged. I don't want people saying I provoked him or that I tempted him. I don't want rumors. Adewale reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. Let them talk. They will get tired. But you, your peace, cannot wait for their silence. Zuri felt her breath catch. What if he comes here? What if he tries to confront me again? Adewale's face hardened. He won't get close to this house. I've already called the security man at the gate. Kelechi is not allowed inside this estate. If he tries, they'll stop him before he gets near. Zuri exhaled with relief. Adewale continued, but I think we need to consider reporting him. Zuri's heart skipped. To the police? Yes, he said. What he did is violence. And he threatened you. He tried to force into your home. He broke boundaries. Fear flickered through her eyes. But what if they don't believe me? What if they turn around like he said? Adewale shook his head. You have me. You have Amara. You have people who will speak for you. And even if the system is slow, your voice still matters. Amara added softly. And even if you don't want to report him, you must not go back. Promise me. Zuri stared at them both. She felt the full weight of their words. She remembered Kelechi's rage, his threats, his pride, his lies. She remembered the door shaking under his kicks. She remembered her fear. I'm not going back, she whispered. Ever. Adewale exhaled deeply, relief washing across his face. Good. That's all I needed to hear. Zuri leaned back in her chair, feeling the tiniest bit lighter. She wasn't healed yet, but she wasn't alone anymore. After breakfast, she walked out to the small balcony. The fresh air brushed against her face, carrying the scent of flowers from a neighbor's garden. Children played football on the street. their laughter rising into the sky. Cars drove by slowly. Life continued. Her fingers curled around the balcony rail. She would rebuild. She would heal. She would rise again. Even if the world whispered lies. Even if Kelechi painted himself as the victim. Even if some people refused to understand. Zuri knew something now. Something she hadn't fully accepted last night. She deserved peace. She deserved safety. She deserved truth. And she would fight for it. Adewale joined her outside, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We'll get through this," he said gently. Zuri nodded. "I know." As they both looked out at the quiet street, neither of them noticed a silver car parked far down the road, engine off, windows tinted unmoving. Inside that car, someone was watching the house. Someone who wasn't ready to let go. Someone who believed Zuri still owed him something. Kelechi, his eyes burned with anger and humiliation as he watched the building, his fingers tapping the steering wheel slowly, rhythmically. "This is not over," he whispered. "Not even close." Zuri spent most of the day resting in Adewale's home, trying to steady herself. Every time she closed her eyes, flashes of last night came rushing back. The shouting, the broken glass, the pounding on her door, the fear choking her throat. But she refused to let those memories control her. Not anymore. She helped Amara fold laundry, tried to wash a few plates, attempted to distract herself with small tasks. But Amara kept stopping her gently, touching her shoulder with quiet concern. "You don't need to work today, my sister. Sit, breathe." Zuri appreciated it more than words could express. For years, she'd lived alone, fighting her battles alone, crying alone, building her strength alone. Having someone tell her just to rest felt foreign, almost uncomfortable, yet deeply comforting. Adewale came home early from work, earlier than she'd expected, and found her sitting on the couch clutching a pillow. He watched her silently for a moment, studying the exhaustion on her face. Then he sat beside her. "I've been thinking," he said quietly. "Healing will take time, and I won't force you to do anything before you're ready. But I spoke to someone today." Zuri turned to him, curious but nervous. "Who?" "A counselor," he said simply. "A professional who deals with people who've been through what you've been through. I don't want you carrying this alone." The word counselor made her heart squeeze. She wasn't sure she was ready to talk to a stranger about something so raw, so humiliating. But the softness in Adewale's voice made her feel safe. "You don't have to see her now," he continued. "Or tomorrow. Or next week. But when you're ready, she's available." Zuri nodded slowly. "Thank you. I'll think about it." Adewale smiled a little. "That's enough." He stood and walked toward the kitchen, but paused when he noticed she wasn't moving. "Zuri, you're safe here," he said again, repeating it like a promise sealed with love. She managed a small smile. "I know." But safety wasn't the only thing she needed. She needed truth, her truth, to finally stand in the light of day. Later that evening, Adewale sat down with her again. His voice came low, controlled and gentle. "I want to be honest with you. I think Kelechi will try to reach you." Zuri's eyes widened. "Why?" "Men like him don't accept responsibility. When they lose control, they look for another way to regain it. He may call. He may try to message you. He may try to twist the story again." Zuri felt her chest tighten. "What should I do?" "Block him." Adewale said firmly. "Everywhere. Don't give him 1 second of your energy. Let him speak to the wind." Amara, who had just joined them with a bowl of fruit, nodded. "Peace begins when you close the door on people who bring chaos." Zuri swallowed hard. Blocking Kelechi felt final. Heavy, like cutting off years of connection. Not romance, not love, but years of familiarity she had mistaken for loyalty. But she also knew that connection had turned toxic long ago. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone. Adewale leaned closer, guiding her through each step. Block, block, block. Facebook, WhatsApp calls, texts, everything. When she finished, she exhaled deeply, a breath she'd been holding for far too long. "It's done," she whispered. Adewale squeezed her shoulder. "Good." She didn't know that as she blocked his number. Kalechi was still sitting in the parked car down the road, watching the lights in Adewale's home with a bitterness that grew like a storm brewing in his chest. He lifted his own phone and tried calling her again, but the line cut instantly. Blocked. His nostrils flared. His hand tightened on the steering wheel. "So you think you can shut me out?" he muttered. "You think you can embarrass me?" His pride, more fragile than anyone realized, shattered into sharper pieces. And sharp men act dangerously when cornered. Back inside the house, Zuri finally allowed herself to relax a little. She and Amara prepared dinner together. Rice, vegetable stew, fried plantain. The aroma filled the house and wrapped the air with a sense of warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. When Adewale returned from taking a phone call outside, Zuri noticed the tension on his face. "What is it?" she asked carefully. He hesitated. Then he sat across from her and leaned forward. "Someone from your old compound called me." Zuri's heartbeat picked up. "Why? What happened?" "They said Kalechi has been talking," Adewale replied. "Spreading lies, telling people you provoked him, that you attacked him, that he was defending himself." Zuri felt her stomach twist painfully. "He's really doing that?" "Yes," he said. "But don't panic. People always talk. What matters is your truth." Her voice trembled. "But what if people believe him?" Adewale reached for her hand. "Some might, but the people who matter won't. The truth has a loud voice, even when whispered." Amara nodded slowly. "And liars always expose themselves with time." Zuri inhaled shakily, trying to steady her emotions. I hate that he's painting me as the problem. After everything he did." Adewale bit his lip, his frustration barely contained. "Let him talk. Let him shout. Let him embarrass himself with his lies. He won't get far." "But—" "No, but—" Adewale interrupted firmly. "Zuri, listen to me. Everything that makes you afraid right now, it's temporary. It will pass. But your peace, your healing, those are long-term. Focus on that." She blinked away tears. Adewale always knew exactly what to say, even when her thoughts felt messy and tangled. Dinner passed quietly. Amara kept giving her warm glances. Adewale kept checking the windows, without making her feel paranoid. Zuri felt protected. But she also felt something else rising inside her. Resolve. A small voice in her chest, timid but persistent, whispered, "I will not let him rewrite my story. I will not let him win." Later at night, when she tried to sleep, she found herself staring at the ceiling for long minutes, listening to the hum of the fan. Her mind wandered through the events of the past days. She replayed the moment she whispered to Adewale that she had been harmed, the fear in her voice, the anger in his. She replayed the knock on her door, the pounding, the threats, the broken glass. She remembered the trembling in her hands, the shivering of her bones. But something was different now. For the first time, she wasn't shivering from fear. She was shivering from awakening. Sometime around midnight, she stepped onto the balcony again. This time, the street was quiet. A cool wind brushed her face softly. A car approached slowly, headlights sweeping across the road. She didn't think much of it, until her heart suddenly dropped. It was a silver car. Her breath caught. For a second, she froze. But then the car drove past the house without stopping, disappearing into the next street. Zuri closed her eyes tightly, holding herself steady. She wasn't sure if it was Kalechi, but if he was watching her, if he was waiting, then her fight wasn't just emotional anymore. She would need more strength than she had ever carried. When she walked back inside, Adewale was in the living room waiting, his eyes soft but alert. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, just thinking. "What about?" Zuri took a breath. "About how I'm going to take my life back." Adewale smiled proudly. "That's my sister." And she meant it, every word. Tomorrow, she would take the first step, whatever it looked like, whoever tried to stop her, no matter how afraid she was. Healing wasn't passive. Healing was a fight, and Zuri was ready to begin. The next morning rose with a quiet stillness, the kind that made Zuri feel both exposed and protected at the same time. She sat on the edge of the bed, running her fingers slowly over the bedsheet. Her mind felt clearer today, Still heavy, still fragile, but clearer. She no longer felt like she was drowning. She felt like she was swimming toward something, even if the shore was far. Adewale knocked softly and entered. "I'm heading out shortly, but I'll be just 10 minutes away," he said. "Amara will be here with you. And if anything feels wrong, call me immediately." Zuri nodded. "I will." He hesitated at the door, turned back and added, "I'm proud of you." When he left, Zuri sat quietly in the living room sipping warm tea as Amara braided her hair gently. The tenderness of the act, the slow, careful touch, brought tears to her eyes. She wasn't used to this level of care. She didn't know she needed it as deeply as she did. "You are stronger than you think," Amara whispered behind her. "Don't let fear tell you otherwise." Zuri swallowed hard. "I'm trying." "That's enough," Amara replied. After the braids were done, Zuri felt lighter, almost renewed. She stepped outside with Amara to sit on the balcony, letting the sun wash over her skin. It felt like warmth she hadn't felt in weeks. Everything seemed calm, until Zuri's phone vibrated with a notification. Her stomach twisted even before she picked it up. A message request from an unfamiliar number. She clicked it. "Unknown number. You think running away makes you untouchable? Everyone already knows your true character. Better fix your story before I fix it for you." Her breath caught. Her hand trembled. It was him, even blocked. He had found another line to reach her. Amara saw the way Zuri froze and gently took the phone from her hand. When she read the message, her entire expression shifted from concern to fury. "This man must think he owns the earth," Amara muttered under her breath. She marched inside and grabbed her own phone. "Adewale needs to see this." Within minutes, Adewale was back at the house, chest heaving with anger, eyes blazing. "Enough is enough," he said through clenched teeth. "We're not going to let him torment you from afar. This ends today." Zuri shook her head quickly. No, Adewale. I don't want drama. I don't want to fight. I just want him to leave me alone." "This is harassment," Adewale snapped. "He's threatening you again. Do you think this will stop on its own? It won't. People like him take silence as permission." She looked away. But what if reporting him makes things worse? What if he gets more angry? What if doing nothing makes him bolder? Adewale countered. "Zuri, you are not safe if he thinks he still controls the narrative." Zuri felt her chest tighten. He was right. She knew he was right. But fear made everything feel larger than it was. Adewale softened his voice. "Come with me. We'll go to the police station together. I'll stand with you. Amara will stand with you. You are not doing this alone." Zuri took a slow breath. She could feel her heartbeat thumping loudly inside her ears. Part of her wanted to run from the idea. Another part of her, the part that had awakened last night, knew this was necessary. What will I even say?" she whispered. "The truth," Adewale said quietly. "Your truth is enough." A long silence followed. Finally, Zuri nodded. "Okay, let's go." Amara squeezed her hand tightly. "You're brave," she said softly. "Braver than you know." But as they stepped outside and walked toward Adewale's car, Zuri froze again. Across the street, parked in the same spot as last night, sat a silver car. Dark windows. Engine off. Still, watching. Her stomach dropped. Her legs trembled. Adewale followed her gaze. When he saw the car, his fists clenched tightly. "Get in the car," he said in a low, controlled voice. "Now." Zuri obeyed immediately. Amara helped her into the back seat, while Adewale circled to the driver's side, all the while keeping his eyes on the silver car. The moment everyone was inside, Adewale locked the doors. "Stay calm," he said. "He can watch if he wants. But today, he's going to learn that watching won't stop the truth." He started the engine and pulled out of the driveway. As they passed the silver car, Zuri's breath hitched when she saw a shadowed figure inside. She couldn't see his face, but she knew who it was. The curl of pride in his posture, the stiff jawline, the resentment that seemed to cling to the air around him. Kelechi. His head turned slightly as their car drove past. But he didn't move. He didn't follow. He just watched. That stare alone chilled her down to her bones. All the way to the police station, she struggled with her breath, her hands trembling in her lap. But Adewale kept reassuring her, dropping calm words like little anchors. You're safe. You're not alone. This is the right step. He won't silence you anymore. When they walked into the station, Zuri hesitated again, fear rising up her throat like a rope pulling her backwards. But Adewale held her hand firmly, guiding her forward. The female officer at the desk looked up and saw the fear in Zuri's eyes instantly. "Madam, are you okay?" she asked softly. Zuri opened her mouth, and nothing came out at first. Adewale placed his hand gently on her back. "Tell her." Zuri closed her eyes briefly, gathered her courage, and finally spoke. "My name is Zuri," she whispered. "I'm here because someone hurt me, and he won't leave me alone." The officer nodded with understanding, her voice calm and warm. "You're safe here. Sit, breathe, and tell me everything." And for the first time since the nightmare began, Zuri spoke, not trembling, not apologizing, not whispering. She told the story of the night he assaulted her. She told the story of his threats. She told the story of him accusing her, twisting the truth, blaming her. She told the story of the pounding on her door, the fear, the harassment, the messages. With every word she spoke, a little weight lifted from her chest. Adewale and Amara stood behind her like two pillars she could lean on. By the time she finished, tears streamed down her cheeks, but her voice no longer shook. The officer nodded slowly. "We will take your statement, and we will call him in. This behavior cannot continue." Zuri wiped her eyes. A feeling washed over her, new, powerful, terrifying, but liberating. It was courage, as she signed the written statement. She felt like she had taken the biggest step of her life. And when they walked out of the station, Adewale pulled her into a tight hug. "I'm proud of you," he whispered again. "This is the beginning, not the end." Zuri nodded, breathing deeply. She knew the road ahead would be difficult. She knew Kelechi would not go down without a fight. She knew lies would spread. She knew rumors would twist everything. But she also knew one thing. She had started reclaiming her story, and she wasn't turning back. If you're following Zuri's journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Wealth. Your support keeps these powerful African stories alive. Hit the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. Zuri barely slept the night after giving her statement at the police station. Even though she had taken a bold step, one she never imagined she could take, her mind remained restless. Courage didn't erase fear. It only taught you how to walk despite it. And as she lay in the quiet guest room, staring at the ceiling, she felt both stronger and more fragile than ever. Morning came slowly. Soft orange sunlight crawled across the room, brushing against her face and nudging her awake. She sat up, pressing her palms against her forehead. Today felt heavy even before it began. But she had made a decision last night, a decision to stop hiding, to stop shrinking, to reclaim her own voice. When she stepped into the living room, Adewale was already dressed for work, pacing back and forth with his phone in his hand. He stopped when he saw her. "Good morning," he said gently, crossing over to her. "How do you feel?" "Tired," she admitted. "But lighter." Adewale nodded, relief softening his features. "Good. That's how healing begins." Amara came from the kitchen with a tray of breakfast, warm yam porridge and slices of ripe plantain. "My sister, come and eat. Your body needs strength." Zuri sat down slowly. The aroma soothed her slightly, but her appetite struggled to rise. She pushed the food around with her spoon. "You have to try," Amara said quietly, sitting beside her, "even if it's small." Zuri forced a tiny bite, then another. It wasn't much, but it was something. Halfway through the meal, Adewale checked his phone and frowned deeply. "What is it?" Zuri asked instantly, her heart suddenly pounding. Adewale hesitated. "It's people." Zuri froze. "What about them?" Adewale sighed heavily and sat across from her. "Someone from your old compound posted something online last night. They didn't mention your name directly, but the description, everyone knows they were talking about you." Zuri felt her stomach twist violently. What do they say? Adewale's jaw clenched. They said you were dramatic, manipulative, and overreacting to a small disagreement. They claimed you were embarrassing yourself for attention. Zuri felt the breath leave her lungs. Amara placed a hand on her back immediately. Ignore them. That's nonsense. But Zuri's throat tightened painfully. Did Kalechi tell them that? Most likely, Adewale muttered. But listen to me. He is fighting for public sympathy. He wants attention. He wants control. He wants people to believe he's a victim. Zuri felt tears sting her eyes. Why would he do this? After everything he did, why is he still trying to destroy me? Adewale leaned forward, voice calm but firm. Because weak men fear accountability more than anything. He knows you're telling the truth, and that truth threatens the image he uses to hide his flaws. So he's attacking your character instead. Zuri wiped her eyes angrily. This isn't fair. I know, Adewale said softly, but he won't win. Amara nodded. People will talk. Today, tomorrow, maybe next week. But the truth always outruns lies. Always. Zuri inhaled shakily. She knew they were right. But hearing people twist her pain into jokes and labels burned deeper than anything else. Adewale reached across the table and took her hand. You did the right thing. Don't let noise from strangers make you doubt what you lived through. Zuri swallowed the lump in her throat and nodded. After breakfast, Adewale prepared to leave for work. Before stepping out, he held Zuri's shoulders gently. Stay in the house today. Don't go near the gate. Don't answer unknown numbers. Don't read anything online. Let me handle anything that comes up. Zuri gave a small nod. I will. Amara stayed with her throughout the morning, keeping her company with soft conversation, mild jokes, and small chores to distract her. But every distraction felt temporary. Zuri's mind kept drifting back to the online posts, the comments, the whispers she knew were spreading. By noon, she felt suffocated. She excused herself and stepped onto the balcony for fresh air. The neighborhood was peaceful. Children playing football, mothers chatting near the gate, a fruit seller pushing his wheelbarrow slowly down the road. Life moved on, but her life felt paused. As she leaned on the railing, her phone buzzed again. Her breath caught instantly. Fear tightened her chest. She reached for it cautiously. Another unknown number. Her fingers trembled. She didn't want to open it. She didn't want to see his words again. But her curiosity overpowered her fear. She clicked the message. Unknown number. I saw what you did yesterday. You think anyone will take you seriously? Keep embarrassing yourself. I'm still the one people believe. Zuri felt tears gather again. But this time, something else rose inside her. Anger. Not the kind that destroys. The kind that awakens. She typed back with shaking hands, fury and strength mixing like fire in her chest. Zuri, stop messaging me. I'm not afraid of you anymore. Her finger hovered over the send button. She hesitated. Her heart pounded. Then she tapped it. Message sent. She exhaled deeply, her chest rising and falling in shaky waves. A minute later, a reply came. Unknown number. You'll regret talking to me like that. Zuri's heart thudded painfully. Her fingers trembled as she put down the phone. She didn't know that Adewale had been calling her at that very moment. When she didn't pick up immediately, he grew worried and rushed home earlier than expected. As soon as he stepped into the living room and saw her pale face, he rushed to her side. Zuri, what happened? She handed him the phone with trembling fingers. Adewale read the message. His jaw tightened. His nostrils flared. A storm gathered behind his eyes. He threatened you again. Adewale said slowly, dangerously calm. This man has crossed every boundary. Zuri wiped a tear. I don't want him to keep winning. Adewale placed both hands on her shoulders. Hear me very clearly. He is not winning. His messages show desperation, not strength. A man who has control doesn't send threats. A man who is losing does. Zuri held his gaze and nodded weakly. Adewale continued. Today, he threatened you. Tomorrow, I promise you, he will be the one answering questions. Zuri didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, she believed Adewale. and she believed in herself. If you're listening to this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Well for emotional, powerful African stories every week. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new chapter. Adewale stayed home longer than he planned that day. After reading Kelechi's threatening message, he couldn't bring himself to leave his sister alone. Not yet. He paced the living room slowly, breathing in and out in controlled anger, while Zuri sat quietly on the couch, hands clasped tightly on her lap. "Zuri," he said suddenly, stopping in front of her, "I want you to understand something. What he's doing isn't just harassment. It's intimidation. And intimidation means he is afraid. Men who feel confident don't behave like this." Zuri nodded, though her chest still felt tight. "But what if he doesn't stop? What if he finds another way to reach me?" Adewale knelt in front of her, eyes warm but fierce. "Then we will block him again, and report him again, and build evidence until he has nowhere to run." Zuri closed her eyes briefly, letting those words sink into cracks inside her heart. She wasn't powerless. Not anymore. Not with Adewale standing beside her. Amara joined them, handing Zuri a cold glass of water. "Drink," she said gently. "You need to calm your spirit." Zuri drank slowly, feeling the coolness slide through her chest. It didn't erase her fear, but it softened it. A few minutes passed before Adewale finally stood up, grabbed his car keys, and put on his jacket. "I have to return to the office," he said, though it was obvious he didn't want to leave. "I'll be back early. Amara is here with you." Zuri nodded. "Okay, but," he pointed at her phone, "if he messages again, call me immediately. Don't reply. Just notify me." "I will," she said. He exhaled deeply, stepped forward, and gave her one more reassuring shoulder squeeze. "You're safe here. He can't get to you." Zuri forced a small smile. "I know." Adewale left, and the house grew quiet again. Amara sat beside her on the couch, rubbing soothing circles on her back. "My sister, trauma plays tricks on the mind. It tells you danger is everywhere, even when you're safe. But you're not alone. Try to rest." Zuri nodded, though resting felt impossible. Her thoughts kept looping. What if he came to the estate? What if he found another phone to message her? What if he twisted more stories online? What if her name became the center of gossip everywhere? Rumors travel faster than truth, especially when a manipulative person fuels them. Amara noticed her spiraling expression and took her hand again. "Listen to me, Zuri. Whatever lies he spreads will fade. People love drama today and forget it tomorrow. But you're healing. That is what matters most." Zuri inhaled shakily. "I just don't want people thinking I'm the problem. I didn't do anything wrong." "That's exactly why you will rise above this," Amara said softly. "You don't need to defend yourself to strangers. Your dignity is not up for public debate." Zuri swallowed hard. She wished her mind believed what her ears heard. Later in the afternoon, Amara went into the kitchen to prepare lunch, leaving Zuri in the living room. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint sound of music from a neighbor's apartment. Zuri picked up her phone. Dozens of notifications blinked from social media. Her breath caught. Her hands shook. She considered ignoring them. She almost did, but part of her needed to know how far the lies had spread. She tapped one notification. A neighbor from her old compound had posted a vague message. Some women will destroy a man's name with their mouth just because he refused to dance to their tune. People don't know the full story. Zuri's heart clenched. Another comment. All this crying on social media is for attention. Everyone knows who the real problem is. Then, she has always been dramatic. This one no shocked me. Zuri felt something crack inside her. Her eyes blurred with tears. Her chest tightened. Her throat burned. She wanted to scream. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know the pain. They didn't know the fear. Yet they had opinions. Loud, cruel opinions. Her vision swayed as she put the phone down. Amara rushed out of the kitchen the moment she heard Zuri's choked gasp. She sat beside her and wrapped her arms around her shoulders. "My sister, leave those people," Amara whispered firmly. "They weren't in the room when he hurt you. They didn't hear your cries. They didn't see your fear. Why are you giving their ignorance power? Zuri sobbed into her hands. It feels like the whole world is against me. The world is not against you, Amara said softly. You are just seeing the small, noisy parts of it. The real people who matter, Adewale, me, and others who love you, we know your truth. Zuri sniffed. I didn't want this. I didn't want drama. I didn't want public shame. Amara cupped her cheeks gently. You didn't cause the drama. The person who harmed you did. So stop blaming yourself for his actions. The words hit deep, very deep. Zuri nodded slowly and wiped her tears. Come, Amara said gently. Let's eat something. But Zuri couldn't eat. She couldn't think. Her mind kept replaying the comments, the rumors, the twisting of truth. Every word felt like a fresh wound layered on top of old scars. She went to the guest room and sat on the bed, hugging her knees. She closed her eyes, but the pain followed her like a shadow. Minutes turned into an hour. Amara knocked softly. Zuri, I'm okay, she whispered. But she wasn't. She was breaking again. She needed fresh air. She needed space. She stepped outside onto the balcony again, inhaling deeply. The air felt heavy but freeing. The street below looked calm. Children running. A man sweeping his front yard, a delivery bike passing by. Normal life. Life she wanted to reclaim. As she gripped the railing, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a number. It was a name she never expected to see. Kelechi's cousin, Chinedu. Her heart dropped. She opened the message. Chinedu, Zuri, I heard everything. Please talk to me. Not everyone believes his lies. I want to understand what happened. Zuri's breath trembled. She sat down on the edge of the balcony, overwhelmed. Someone from Kelechi's family. Reaching out? Was it genuine? Was it a trap? Was it another attempt to twist the story? Another manipulation? She didn't know. She stared at the message for a long minute, unsure what to do. Amara saw her from inside and stepped onto the balcony. When she saw the name on the screen, her eyebrows shot up. Don't reply yet. Amara said firmly, wait for Adewale to return. This could be good or very bad. We cannot assume. Zuri nodded shakily. Her heart pounded. Why would Chinedu message? What did he want? What did he know? What had he heard? Questions spun in her mind. Fear mixed with curiosity. And somewhere deep inside her, a new feeling stirred. Hope. Because if even one person connected to Kelechi believed her, it meant the truth was beginning to travel. Even if slowly, even if quietly, it was moving. And this, Chinedu's message, could be the beginning of a shift nobody expected. Zuri sat there on the balcony, her fingers trembling around the phone, her eyes fixed on the message from Chinedu. She read it over and over, each word hitting her differently every time. Not everyone believes his lies. I want to understand what happened. Part of her felt relief, small, cautious relief, that someone within Kelechi's circle wasn't rushing to defend him blindly. But another part of her was terrified. She didn't know whether this message came from a place of truth or deceit. She didn't know if it was genuine concern or a trap carefully disguised as kindness. Amara stood beside her, arms folded gently. My sister, this message, it's unexpected. She studied the screen again. But be careful. It could be anything. Zuri nodded. I know. I don't want to trust the wrong person. Exactly. Amara touched her arm softly. Wait for Adewale. So she waited. Minutes passed slowly. The sound of the neighborhood drifted upward. Footsteps, distant chatter, the soft hum of motorcycle engines, but nothing eased a tight coil inside her chest. She checked the phone again, even though nothing new had come in. When she finally heard Adewale's car pull up in front of the house, her breath shuddered with relief. Amara called him from the balcony. Adewale, come upstairs. It's urgent. He rushed up quickly. Worry etched across his face the moment he saw Zuri's expression. What happened? Are you okay? Zuri handed him the phone, pointing at the message. He texted me. Chinedu. Adewale read the message slowly, his brows lowering, his mouth tightening in thought. He let out a quiet breath and sat down beside her. This is interesting, he said carefully. Zuri swallowed. Should I respond? Should I ignore him? I don't know what to do. Adewale turned the phone over in his hand. Chinedu is Kelechi's cousin. They're close, yes, but Chinedu has always been more reasonable. He's not like Kelechi at all. That doesn't mean he's on my side, Zuri whispered. You're right. Adewale nodded. It doesn't, but it also doesn't mean he's against you. Amara chimed in softly. Sometimes truth surprises you. Maybe someone in that family knows who Kelechi really is. Zuri sighed shakily. I don't want to open the door to more pain. You won't, Adewale said. We'll handle this carefully. He thought for a long moment, tapping the edge of the phone lightly against his palm. Then he said, Reply, but keep it short. Don't share details yet. Don't open up too fast. Just keep the door slightly open, but carefully. Zuri nodded. Her fingers shook as she took the phone. What should I say? She asked. Adewale leaned in. Say, I'm not ready to talk yet, but thank you for reaching out. Zuri typed it. Her heart pounded hard as she hit send. Almost immediately, Chinedu replied. Chinedu, take your time. I just want you to know I don't support violence. And I don't believe you're lying. Zuri's breath caught. She stared at the message, her heart softening in ways she didn't expect. Adewale's eyebrows lifted. He responded fast. Amar appeared at the screen. And the tone, it doesn't sound like someone supporting nonsense. Zuri couldn't describe how she felt. Surprised, relieved, confused, hesitant. All at once. She asked quietly, Should I say anything else? Adewale shook his head. Not now. Let him talk first. Let's see what he wants to reveal. So she didn't reply. But a few minutes later, Chinedu sent another message. Chinedu, Zuri, please be careful. Kelechi is telling people a twisted story. But some of us know him. He has anger issues. He has had similar problems before. Zuri's eyes widened in shock. Similar problems? She whispered. He's done this before? Adewale sat upright, alert. Wait, what does he mean? Zuri scrolled down. Another message came. Chinedu, I'm not supposed to say much, but this is not the first time he's hurt someone and tried to blame them. I'm tired of covering for him. Zuri covered her mouth with trembling fingers. She felt a lump rise in her throat. She had always suspected that Kelechi's anger didn't begin with her, but hearing it confirmed, especially by someone in his own family, hit deeper than anything else. Adewale's jaw clenched tightly. So it's true. He is a pattern. Zuri's heart broke all over again, not only because of what had happened to her, but because she realized there might be other women, other victims, who had suffered the same pain in silence. Amara whispered, My God, this man, he is dangerous. Zuri sat back, emotionally overwhelmed. Why didn't anyone warn me? Adewale placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. People hide things in families, especially shame. Another message came. Chinedu, if you want, I can tell you the full truth, but I will only say it if you feel safe enough to hear it. Zuri's chest tightened. Did she want the truth? Yes. Did she fear it? Also yes. Adewale gently took the phone from her hand. Zuri, this is your decision. Do you want to know what he did in the past? Zuri stared into the distance, her thoughts swirling. She wanted closure. She wanted understanding. She wanted to know she was not imagining things, that her pain wasn't isolated. But she also feared that knowing would hurt even more. Finally, she whispered, Yes, I want to know. Adewale nodded. Then tell him you're listening. With shaky fingers, Zuri typed, Zuri, I'm ready. Tell me the truth. They waited. Seconds passed. Then Chinedu's reply came, and it was longer than before. Chinedu, some years ago, he was in a relationship with a woman named Nena. Everyone thought they were fine until she left suddenly. At first, Kelechi told the family she was misbehaving. But the truth came later. He had anger problems. He used to break things in the house. He used to shout, threaten, and scare her. One day, he pushed her during an argument. She hit her head. It wasn't serious, but it was enough. She left, and she never came back. Zuri felt her entire world tilt. Adewale muttered a curse under his breath. He did it before. He's been violent before. Zuri felt her chest tighten painfully. I wasn't the first. No, Amara said softly, rubbing her back. You were not. More messages came. Chinedu, his family tried to cover it up. They said she exaggerated. They begged her not to report. She stayed quiet because she was afraid. But everyone close to us knew the truth. Zuri closed her eyes, tears falling silently. So many signs she ignored. So many warnings she never received. So much pain she had carried alone, thinking it was hers only. Her breathing grew shaky. I could have died. The other woman, she could have died. Why didn't anyone stop him? Adewale wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Because people protect the wrong things sometimes. Ego, reputation, shame. Another message came. Chinedu, Zuri, I'm telling you this because you deserve to know what you're dealing with. Kelechi is not well. He refuses help, and he always blames the women for what he does. Zuri sobbed into her hands. Adewale held her tighter. You choosing to speak up now could stop him from hurting another woman. You have no idea how powerful your voice is becoming. Zuri trembled as more messages came. Chinedu, he doesn't know I'm telling you this, but I can't keep quiet anymore. If you need me to speak for you, I will. Zuri's breath caught. Someone from his family, not loyally protecting him, but standing with her. She wiped her tears and whispered, Why would he do that for me? Adewale answered softly, Because truth weighs on people. Sometimes, even family can't carry the burden of someone's darkness forever. Zuri breathed out slowly, shakily. For the first time since the nightmare began, she felt something she hadn't felt in days. Validation, strength, relief, courage, clarity. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't overreacting. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't the problem. And she wasn't alone. Her truth was real. Her pain was real. Her story mattered. She typed a final message to Chinedu. Zuri, thank you. You don't know how much this means to me. He replied instantly. Chinedu, stay safe. He is more unstable than he looks. Zuri exhaled. Her fight was far from over. But today, she had something she didn't have before. Power. And the truth. If you're following Zuri's powerful journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Well for more emotional African storytelling. Zuri woke up the next morning with a heaviness she could feel in her bones. Not the paralyzing heaviness of fear, and not the suffocating heaviness of shame. It was something new, a kind of emotional exhaustion mixed with clarity. Last night's messages from Chinedu had changed something deep inside her. She could still feel the lingering shock from everything she learned, but beneath the shock was a steady pulse of understanding she didn't have before. She hadn't imagined Kelechi's anger. She hadn't exaggerated his behavior. She hadn't provoked anything. She wasn't the first victim. She wasn't the only one he had hurt. It was a painful truth, but it was truth nonetheless. And truth, no matter how heavy, was better than confusion and self-blame that had been crushing her for days. When she stepped into the living room, Adewale and Amara were already awake. Amara was wiping the dining table while humming softly, and Adewale was scrolling through his phone with a frown on his face. He looked up as soon as he heard her footsteps. Morning, he said softly. How was your night? Zuri shrugged. I barely slept, but I'm okay, I think. Adewale nodded slowly, studying her face. That message from Chinedu shook you. It did, she whispered. I keep thinking about Nena, the woman he pushed. I keep thinking, what if she didn't leave? What if I didn't leave? What if one day his anger went further? Amara stepped toward her, wiping her hands on her apron. My sister, do not punish yourself with what-ifs. The important thing is that you left. You protected your life. And now you're fighting back. Zuri sighed. But it still hurts. Everything hurts. Adewale nodded gently. Healing is not comfortable. It stretches the places pain once lived in. But you're moving in the right direction. Before Zuri could respond, his phone buzzed again. Adewale glanced down, and his expression hardened. What is it? Zuri asked immediately. Adewale hesitated, then turned the screen toward her. It was a screenshot. Someone had posted yet another vague message on social media. People will paint you as a monster when you refuse to tolerate their manipulative behavior. Stay strong, brothers. The comments below were worse. We know who you're talking about. That girl has always been trouble. She's seeking sympathy. Kelechi is a good guy. She's lying. Zuri's stomach clenched like someone had tied a knot inside her. Adewale quickly took the phone back. Don't look at the comments. These people don't know anything. Zuri wrapped her arms around herself, shivering though the room was warm. It's like he's trying to destroy me publicly. Adewale's voice grew sharp. Because he knows he can't destroy you privately anymore. Zuri sank into the nearest chair. I don't want to be the topic of gossip. I didn't ask for this. Amara knelt beside her. My sister, liars make noise because silence would expose them. But the truth doesn't need volume. It stands steadily. These posts, they won't last. People gossip today and forget tomorrow. Your life is bigger than their conversations. Zuri looked down at her hands. It still hurts. I know, Amara whispered. A few minutes passed in silence before Adewale finally spoke again, calmer now. Chinedu said something important yesterday. He said some people know who Kelechi really is. That means the truth is already leaking. These lies won't last forever. Zuri nodded slowly. She hoped so. She needed to believe it. Later that afternoon, she went to the balcony for fresh air. The sky was bright, the neighborhood lively, and for a moment she tried to imagine what her life would look like once the storm passed. She couldn't see the full picture yet, but she knew it wouldn't look like fear. Then her phone vibrated. Zuri stiffened instantly. Another message from Chinedu. She opened it cautiously. Chinedu, Zuri, I need to tell you something important. Kelechi is furious that you reported him. He's trying to build support online, but he's also scared. The police called him today. Zuri's heart skipped. The police called him? A second message came. Chinedu, yes. They invited him for questioning. He's pretending not to care, but he is shaken. He left the house early this morning, pacing and muttering. He didn't sleep. A strange, unexpected feeling washed over Zuri. Relief. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Just relief. For the first time since this nightmare began. Kelechi wasn't the one holding the fear. He wasn't the one in control. He wasn't the one dictating the script. He was scared. Zuri exhaled slowly, absorbing that realization. Another message arrived. Chinedu, he said something you should know. He plans to confront you again. He said he wants to clear the air in person. Be careful. Zuri felt her heartbeat slow, then speed up again. Confront her? After police involvement? After threatening messages? After everything? He still wanted to confront her? Adewale walked onto the balcony just as her breath caught. What happened? Zuri handed him the phone. As he read through the messages, Adewale's face darkened. He wants to confront you? After being called by the police? This man has no sense. Zuri whispered, What do I do? Adewale looked her dead in the eye. You stay inside. You stay close to us. And if he steps near this house, I promise you, it won't end in his favor. Zuri didn't speak. She stared out the street below, feeling fear and courage wrestling inside her chest again. She didn't want another confrontation. She didn't want more shouting. She didn't want more accusations. But she knew this wasn't the end. Kelechi wasn't done. Men like him rarely walked away quietly. Amara stepped onto the balcony and placed an arm around her shoulders. My sister, she whispered. Whatever storm comes, we face it together. Zuri nodded slowly, gripping the railing tightly. She didn't know what Kelechi would do next. She didn't know he would show up. She didn't know how messy things could get. But she knew one thing. She wasn't running anymore. If Kelechi wanted to confront her, he would meet a different Zuri. Not the frightened woman he pushed around. Not the silent woman he blamed. Not the confused woman he manipulated. He would meet the Zuri who left the door closed. The Zuri who reported him. The Zuri who had an entire circle standing around her. The Zuri who knew the truth and the Zuri who had finally found her voice. For the rest of the afternoon, Zuri stayed inside, pacing softly around the living room while Amara sliced vegetables in the kitchen. Every sound from outside made her heart jolt. A car door closing, footsteps passing the window, even the distant laughter of children. Trauma transforms ordinary sounds into warning bells, and Zuri felt that transformation deeply. She kept glancing at her phone, though she wasn't sure what she expected to see. A new message? A missed call? A threat? A plea? Silence? Anything felt possible. Everything felt dangerous. When a soft knock sounded at the door, she froze immediately. Her breath caught. Her body stiffened. Her fingers curled against her palms. Amara looked up sharply from the kitchen. "Stay there," she whispered. She wiped her hands quickly and approached the door with quiet steps, peering through the peephole. Then she exhaled softly. "It's just Janet, our neighbor." Zuri's shoulders slumped with relief. Amara opened the door and Janet, a friendly woman from 2 houses down, handed her a bowl of jollof rice with a smile. "I cooked extra. I know you have a guest staying. Just wanted to share." Amara thanked her and closed the door. When she turned around, Zuri was still shaking slightly. "My sister," breathed, Amara said gently. "It's just the door. Nothing more." Zuri nodded weakly. "I know. Everything feels like danger right now." "That is normal," Amara said. "Your body is in protection mode. It will calm with time." Zuri leaned against the wall, eyes closed, breathing slowly until her heartbeat settled. A few minutes later, Adewale returned home earlier than expected, carrying a plastic bag of documents under his arm. He looked tired, mentally more than physically, but the moment he saw Zuri, his expression softened. "How are you holding up?" "I'm okay," she said, though the truth was layered and complicated. Adewale glanced at Amara. "Any disturbance?" "Just a friendly neighbor," Amara replied. "Everything has been quiet." "Good," he muttered, though the tightness in his jaw said he wasn't fully reassured. He sat on the couch and set the plastic bag beside him. "Zuri, I need to talk to you about something important." Zuri walked over slowly and sat across from him, bracing herself. "What is it?" Adewale pulled out a printed screenshot, one of the online posts Kelechi had made earlier. "I've been monitoring everything he's saying, and I noticed something." Zuri's eyes narrowed. "What?" "He's getting sloppy," Adewale said. "When people lie, they usually repeat certain patterns. They exaggerate the same points. And Kelechi has repeated 2 exact lines on 3 different posts." Zuri frowned. "Why does that matter?" Adewale leaned forward. "Because he's panicking," he said. "Liars repeat themselves when they feel the truth closing in. It's a psychological pattern." Zuri blinked, absorbing that. "So he's losing control?" "Yes," Adewale said with certainty. "The police call rattled him. You blocking him rattled him. Chinedu messaging you rattled him. He is spinning." Amara sat beside Zuri. "My sister, this means you are stronger than you think. Look at how everything has shifted." Zuri nodded slowly, feeling something warm stir in her chest. "Something like hope," Adewale continued. "I spoke to the officer handling your file today. She said they will follow up if he doesn't show up for questioning. He can't avoid it forever." Zuri felt a small breath of relief escape her lips. Then Adewale added something that made her stiffen. "But she also said that men like him often try to confront their victims one more time before facing authorities." Zuri's breath hitched. "Why?" "To intimidate, to silence, to rewrite the story, to scare you into backing down." Zuri felt a chill wash over her skin. Amara whispered, "But he won't reach you. He won't get close to this house." Adewale nodded. "I've already spoken to the estate security. They know his face. They know his car. He won't pass the gate." Zuri stared at her hands. "But what if he tries? What if he forces his way in?" Adewale's expression hardened. "Let him try." Zuri looked up at him, surprised by the sharpness in his tone. Adewale continued. "He thinks he's unstoppable because no one has ever stopped him before. That ends today. He doesn't get to harass you. He doesn't get to terrorize you. Not while I'm alive." Zuri swallowed hard. Thank you. He nodded. You don't thank family. We protect each other. A few moments passed quietly as the weight of his words settled deeply. Then Zuri spoke again, softly. Adewale, what if people keep believing his lies? Adewale gave a small, weary smile. People believe whatever entertains them, not what is true. But eventually, truth becomes louder. You just keep walking in your truth. Let time handle the rest. Zuri exhaled. She needed to hear that. As the afternoon turned into evening, the house filled with the comforting aroma of Amara's cooking. Zuri helped chop vegetables, fold laundry, and set the dining table. Each small task grounded her, reminding her she was still here, still breathing, still capable of living. Just before dinner, her phone buzzed again. She froze as a vibration echoed through the room. Adewale and Amara looked at her instantly. Zuri picked up the phone with trembling fingers. Her heart dropped. Another unknown number. Her breath hit sharply, but she forced herself to unlock the phone. The message appeared. Short, cold, calculated. Unknown number. Tell your brother to calm down. You're making things worse for yourself. Zuri's hand shook violently. Adewale snatched the phone from her and read the message. His entire body stiffened with rage. He's threatening you through different numbers now? This man is mad. A second message came immediately. Unknown number. We need to talk before things get out of hand. Zuri whispered, he's here. He knows we're together. He knows Adewale is defending me. Adewale clenched his fists. He doesn't know anything. He's guessing. He's trying to create fear. Amara spoke sharply. Delete that message. Block this number. Report it to the officer. Adewale turned to Zuri. You don't respond. Ever. Not another word to him. Zuri nodded shakily. But deep inside her chest, a familiar dread was rising again. If Kelechi was still messaging, still threatening, still trying to manipulate, then he wasn't letting go. Not yet, not willingly. And Zuri knew, with a kind of intuition she couldn't explain, that he was planning something. The evening air felt heavier than usual, almost thick enough to touch. Zuri tried to eat dinner, but each bite tasted like worry. Amara kept glancing at her, offering small smiles of reassurance, and Adewale stayed unusually quiet, his silence carrying more intensity than any words. After dinner, Zuri stepped outside the balcony again, needing space to breathe. The sun had dipped behind the buildings, leaving behind a soft orange glow fading slowly into dusk. The street was calm. The distant sound of children playing had softened, replaced by quiet conversations drifting from neighbors' compounds. She leaned on the railing, inhaling deeply. For a moment, she allowed her eyes to close. Her shoulders eased. Her thoughts slowed. She felt calm, almost until the vibration in her pocket jolted her. Her phone, again. Her heartbeat thudded painfully as she reached for it. Unknown number. Her chest tightened. Her throat went dry. She didn't want to open it. Didn't want to see another threat. Didn't want her healing to be yanked backward again. But she forced herself to look. Unknown number. I'm not going anywhere. You can hide in your brother's house all you want. We still need to talk. Zuri felt her fingers go numb. She stepped back into the living room immediately, handing the phone to Adewale. He read the message slowly, his jaw tightening until the muscles jumped. That's it, he said quietly, too quietly. He wanted a reaction. He's trying to provoke fear. Amara looked at Zuri gently. My sister blocked the number. Zuri nodded, but her hands trembled so badly she couldn't press the screen. Adewale took the phone and handled it himself. Block, report, delete. Done, he said. But Zuri wasn't calm. A cold chill had spread under her skin, the same sensation that rose the night he banged on her door. Something in her spirit whispered that this wasn't just bluster. Kelechi wasn't bluffing. He was building toward something. Amara placed warm hands on Zuri's shoulders. Sit down, she said softly. Breathe deeply. Zuri sat on the couch, clutching a throw pillow to her chest. She breathed slowly in and out, counting each inhale to steady her nerves. Adewale paced the room, checking the windows, the lock on the door, and the curtains. He stopped pacing only when his phone rang. He checked the caller ID. His eyes flashed. "The police station," he said. Zuri's breath caught. "What do they want?" Adewale answered. "Hello?" "Yes, officer." Zuri and Amara waited, every nerve alert. "Yes, she's safe," Adewale said after a few minutes. "Here with us." "Yes." "You did? For tomorrow morning?" "All right. Thank you." He hung up slowly. Zuri swallowed. "Adewale, what did they say?" He sat beside her, took a deep breath, and spoke gently. "They got in touch with Kelechi." Zuri's stomach dropped. "And?" "They told him to report at the station tomorrow morning for formal questioning." Her pulse quickened. Amara whispered. "Did he agree?" Adewale's eyes hardened. He didn't refuse, but he didn't sound cooperative either. The officer said his tone was defensive, aggressive, unsettled. Zuri wrapped her arms around herself. "He's angry." "Yes," Adewale said, "but anger doesn't mean power. It means fear." Amara sat beside Zuri, rubbing her back. When people fear consequences, they behave like cornered animals. They lash out. Zuri whispered, "I'm scared." Adewale reached over and squeezed her hand. "And that's okay, but you're not in danger here. He will not get close. I promise." Zuri nodded weakly, but the fear didn't disappear. It hovered around her like a shadow. Later that night, she went to her room and sat on the bed, hugging her knees. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow from the lamp on the nightstand. She could hear Adewale's voice faintly from the living room, speaking to Amara about precautions, about safety, about the next steps. Zuri stared at the wall. She remembered Kelechi's eyes when he stood outside her window. She remembered his footsteps pacing. She remembered the knock on her door, the shouting, the threats, the breaking glass. Her breath hitched. A tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. Her healing wasn't a straight line. It was messy, heavy, unpredictable. And days like this, days filled with threats and reminders, made her feel like she was slipping backward. She wiped her face slowly. She wouldn't slip. Not this time. Not ever again. She stood, walked to the mirror, and looked at her reflection. She didn't see the frightened woman from last week. She saw someone standing on the edge of transformation, shaken, yes, but rising, slowly, painfully, bravely. A soft knock came at her door. "Zuri!" Adewale called gently. She opened it. "Yes." He stepped in. "I want you to sleep in the master bedroom tonight. It's safer. The windows face the inside of the compound, and I'll be in the living room. I'm not closing my eyes tonight." Zuri's heart tightened with gratitude. "You don't have to do that." "Yes," he said firmly. "I do." Amara appeared behind him with an extra blanket. "You're safe, my sister," she said softly. "We're watching over you." Zuri stepped into the hallway and hugged them both, tears slipping freely now. Not out of fear, out of love, out of relief, out of the comfort of knowing she wasn't alone. Later that night, as she lay on the master bed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of lavender, she heard nothing but quiet. No footsteps outside. No car stopping near the house. No phone vibrating with threats. But she didn't sleep. She stayed awake staring at the ceiling, her heart beating steadily. Not with panic, but with anticipation. The next morning would be important. Kelechi would face questioning. He would have to stand before authority. He would have to answer for what he did. And for the first time since this nightmare began, the next move wasn't his. It was the law's. And Zuri's story, her truth, was finally walking into the light. She exhaled deeply. Tomorrow, everything could change. The morning arrived with a strange quietness, the kind that settles in the air before something important happens. Zuri woke before the sun, her mind already restless, her body tense, as if her spirit sensed the weight of the day ahead. She sat up slowly, feeling the coolness of the room wrap around her shoulders like an uneasy blanket. Today was the day Kelechi was supposed to appear at the police station. Her heart beat steadily, but each thump carried a memory of the past week. The fear, the threats, the online lies, the constant messages. She stood from the bed and took a deep breath before walking toward the door. When she opened it, she found Adewale sitting in the living room fully dressed, his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes fixed on the front door like he was guarding a fortress. "Good morning," Zuri said softly. Adewale looked up immediately, offering a small, warm smile. "Morning. You didn't sleep well." She shook her head. "Not at all." "I knew it," he said, "but we'll get through today." Amara entered from the kitchen with a tray of warm tea and bread. "Zuri, come and drink something. You need strength this morning." Zuri nodded and sat down. She picked up the tea with trembling hands, the steam rising gently, warming her face. She took a slow sip and let it sit on her tongue, hoping it would ease the tightness in her chest. Adewale cleared his throat. "I spoke to the officer again this morning. They're expecting him by 9 o'clock. They said we don't have to come unless they call us. Do you think he'll show up?" Zuri asked, her voice barely a whisper. Adewale exhaled deeply. "Honestly, I don't know. Men like him, they don't like accountability." But the call from the police rattled him. Chinedu said he didn't sleep all night. That means he's afraid. Zuri set her cup down. "I still can't believe he's trying to paint me as the problem." Adewale leaned back, his eyes steady and sympathetic. "Because he's used to getting away with everything. He's never faced consequences before. You're reporting him? That alone shook his entire world." Amara nodded firmly. "My sister. Some people fear shame more than jail. What he fears now is not the law. It's losing control of the story." Zuri listened quietly, absorbing every word. It made sense. Kelechi wasn't fighting the truth. He was fighting the collapse of his own ego. As the clock approached 9, Zuri's breath grew shorter, her palms damp with tension. Adewale noticed and moved closer to her. "Look at me," he said gently. She did. "Whatever happens today, you already won. You took a step he never expected. You broke the silence he depended on. Even if he lies, even if he tries to twist things, he can't erase what he did. And you're not alone anymore." Her eyes softened, filling with tears she refused to let fall. "Thank you. I'm your brother," Adewale said. "You don't thank me." The house fell into a waiting silence after that. 9 o'clock came. 9:15. 9:30. Every passing minute intensified Zuri's heartbeat. She checked her phone repeatedly, even though no missed calls appeared. Amara tried to distract her with small tasks, folding laundry, slicing vegetables, arranging the living room. But Zuri's mind stayed trapped in the same loop. Is he there? Did he show up? Is he lying to the police right now? Is he telling another twisted version? Is he blaming her again? Finally, around 10 o'clock, Adewale's phone buzzed. Zuri froze. Adewale answered immediately. "Hello? Yes, officer, we're here." Zuri's chest tightened as she watched his expression change, eyes narrowing, brows tightening. "I see," Adewale said. Her stomach flipped. "We'll wait for your follow-up," he added before hanging up. Zuri's voice cracked slightly. "What happened? Did he go?" Adewale placed his phone on the table and sighed heavily. "He didn't show up." Zuri's breath caught. "What? Why?" "He claimed he wasn't available," Adewale said bitterly. "He told the officer he had important commitments and would come another day." Zuri shut her eyes, pain washing through her chest. She wasn't surprised, but the disappointment still hurt. "So he's ignoring them?" "For now," Adewale said. "But the officer said they'll escalate if he doesn't show up again. This isn't optional. He can't dodge it forever." Amara folded her arms. "Some men think the law is their mate." Zuri let out a shaky breath. "So now what?" Adewale sat beside her again. "Now we stay ready. He's desperate. Sometimes desperate men make foolish moves." Zuri nodded slowly. But deep inside, a cold dread unfurled. Kelechi wasn't avoiding the police because he was confident. He was avoiding them because he was calculating, planning, waiting. Later that day, Zuri received another message from Chinedu. "Chinedu, he's angry, very angry. He left the house shouting. I think he's coming your way." Zuri's entire body went cold. She stared at the message for a full 10 seconds before she could breathe again. Adewale, she whispered, her voice trembling. He might come here. Adewale grabbed the phone and read the message. Without hesitation, he stood, grabbed his keys, and said, "Lock all the doors. Close the curtains. Nobody steps outside." Amara hurried to lock the windows. Zuri felt her heartbeat in her throat. She moved toward the hallway with shaky legs, replaying Chinidu's message over and over in her mind. Kalechi left the house shouting, "He's very angry. He might be coming your way." This wasn't just fear. It was warning. A real one she could not ignore. As Zuri stood in the middle of Adewale's living room, doors locked, windows covered, her breath trembling, she understood something with painful clarity. The storm wasn't passing. It was arriving. The silence inside Adewale's house felt sharp. Too sharp, too still, too aware. Every sound outside seemed louder than usual. The gate creaking as a neighbor came in, the distant chatter of children, even the hum of motorcycle engines passing on the main road. Zuri felt each sound inside her bones. She stood near the window, careful not to be seen, peering through the thin opening between the curtains. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Her hands trembled. Her breath felt too shallow. Amara moved beside her and gently pulled her away from a window. "Don't look," she whispered. "It will only make your mind worse." Zuri nodded weakly, but her thoughts were already racing. Kalechi is angry. Kalechi is unpredictable. Kalechi is coming here. She closed her eyes and placed her hands against her chest, trying to calm the storm inside her, trying to remind herself she was not the same helpless woman she was a week ago. She had reported him. She had blocked him. She had stood up to him. But trauma didn't respect courage. It clung to fear like a shadow. Adewale's voice broke through the tension. He entered from a veranda, having just spoken to the estate security. "They're watching the gate," he said, breath slightly sharp. "They know his face. They know his car. They know not to let him in." Zuri swallowed hard. "And if he tries to force his way?" Adewale met her eyes. "He won't get past the gate. But even if he tries, I'm here. I'm not letting anything happen to you." His voice carried a kind of finality she trusted, even though fear still curled tightly inside her stomach. Amara placed a steaming cup of herbal tea in Zuri's hands. "Drink," she whispered. "Let it calm your spirit." Zuri took a small sip, her hands still trembling, the warmth settling in her chest slowly. Minutes crawled by, then more minutes, then more, until the waiting became heavier than the fear itself. Zuri sat on the couch, hugging a cushion tightly. Adewale paced the room, checking the locks, checking the windows, checking his phone for updates from security. Amara sat beside Zuri, rubbing soft circles on her back. The house was too quiet, too still, and in that stillness the tension thickened. Around noon, Zuri's phone buzzed again. She jumped violently, nearly spilling her tea. Adewale rushed over. "Give it to me." She handed him the phone with shaky fingers. He looked at the screen, then relaxed slightly. "It's Chinidu." Zuri's heartbeat slowed, just a little. "Read it." Adewale opened the message. "Chinidu, I don't know if he's reached your side yet, but he left here in a rage. Please be careful. I've tried to calm him, but he's not listening to anybody." Zuri felt chills sweep down her arms. Adewale clenched his jaw. Amara closed her eyes for a moment, whispering a quiet prayer. Another message followed. "Chinidu, my father tried talking to him. He threw his bag and stormed out. I've never seen him like this. Something in him snapped today." Zuri felt her breath catch painfully. "He snapped?" she whispered. Adewale placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Zuri, listen. People who lose power often behave recklessly. But that does not mean they will succeed. Fear is making him act louder, not stronger." Zuri nodded weakly, but her fear wasn't fading. It grew thicker by the minute. Amara stood. "Let me check the back door," she murmured. Adewale followed her. Zuri remained on the couch, gripping the cushion so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Then, a soft vibration on the table. Her phone again. She stared at the screen. Another unknown number. Her throat tightened. Her stomach dropped. Adewale instantly walked toward her. "Don't touch it." He grabbed the phone and opened the message. Zuri held her breath. Adewale's expression changed. Not softened, not hardened, but sharpened. He showed the message to Zuri. "Unknown number. I'm nearby. You can't hide forever." Zuri's breath shattered in her chest. Amara gasped quietly. Adewale's expression turned dark with fury. Zuri felt dizzy. "Nearby? He's close." Adewale inhaled slowly, forcing calm. "He might be bluffing. He wants to scare you. That message could be from anywhere." But Zuri's intuition whispered something darker. "He's here," she breathed. "I can feel it." Adewale tightened his grip on the phone. "Just because he says he's nearby doesn't mean." A loud knock cut through the house like a lightning bolt. They all froze. Zuri's heart stopped. Her breath died in her throat. Her vision blurred. The knock came again. Harder. Angrier. Amara whispered, "Adewale." He motioned for silence. Zuri clung to the couch, her hands trembling violently. Every muscle in her body went rigid. Another knock. This one louder than the last. Adewale walked slowly to the door, but did not open it. He stood very still, listening. "Who is there?" he called out, voice firm but controlled. No answer. A long silence followed, a suffocating silence. Then, a familiar voice, a voice that made Zuri's stomach twist into a painful knot. "Open the door." Zuri's hands flew to her mouth. She shook her head violently. Adewale's eyes widened in fury. Amara rushed to Zuri's side. The voice came again, quiet, low, dangerous. "Open this door, Adewale. I'm not here for you. I'm here for her." Zuri felt tears spill down her cheeks. Adewale's voice boomed through the door. "Get away from my house." The voice on the other side replied, "You think you can hide her from me?" Zuri trembled uncontrollably. Amara held her tightly. Adewale stepped closer to the door, fists clenched. "You need to leave. Right now. Before security gets here." The voice grew even colder. "I didn't come to fight. I came to talk. She knows we need to talk. Open this door before I—" Adewale cut him off. "Before you what? You threaten her again? You push her again? You shout at her again? If you don't leave now, I will involve the police immediately." Silence. A silence thick with anger. A silence full of warning. Zuri pressed herself deeper into the couch, her breath shaking so violently she could hardly inhale. Adewale stayed perfectly still, listening for movement on the other side. Then, footsteps. Heavy ones. Slow ones. Walking away. Zuri's entire body sagged with relief. Amara whispered, "Thank God." But Adewale did not relax. And Zuri knew why. Those footsteps didn't sound like someone leaving. They sounded like someone circling. Someone waiting. Someone planning something. Zuri felt a chill run through her chest. This wasn't over. Not even close. The moment the footsteps faded, the house seemed to inhale with them, leaving behind a thick, heavy stillness that pressed against the walls. Zuri stayed frozen on the couch, her body shaking so violently she thought her bones would rattle apart. Amara held her tightly, whispering soft words she could barely hear over the pounding of her own heartbeat. But Adewale didn't move. He stood by the door with the stillness of a man holding back a storm. His palm rested on the doorknob, not to open it, but to anchor himself. His jaw was clenched so hard the muscles pulsed under his skin. His chest rose and fell sharply. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward Zuri. He didn't leave. Zuri felt her throat close. Amara's eyes widened. "You heard him." Adewale nodded. He walked away from the door, but he didn't leave the compound. "I know the sound of his footsteps. He's still close." Zuri's breath shook. "Adewale, what does he want?" "To intimidate you," Adewale said. "To make you panic. To force you into talking to him so he can rewrite the story." Zuri covered her face. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living like a hunted animal." Adewale rushed over, kneeling in front of her. "Hey, look at me." She didn't. She kept her hands over her face, shaking with silent sobs. Adewale gently pulled her hands down and held them. You are not hunted. You are protected. You hear me? She nodded weakly, but fear still crawled across her skin. Amara sat on her other side and rubbed her arm softly. My sister, this is fear talking, not reality. He cannot enter this house. Adewale stood up abruptly. I'm calling the police. Zuri grabbed his hand quickly. What if that makes things worse? He knelt back down and took her face in both hands. Zuri, things are already worse. He is standing outside my house threatening you. That is enough. Zuri's eyes filled with tears. Promise me you won't go out there. Adewale shook his head. I won't. I promise. I'm not giving him the fight he wants. I'm using the law. He stepped to the side to call the officer, while Zuri held onto the pillow like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Amara wrapped her arms around her shoulders. Minutes felt like hours. Adewale returned with the phone pressed against his ear. Yes, officer. He's here right outside. He's already sent threatening messages. Yes, we're safe inside. No, he hasn't forced entry. Yes, please send patrol. He ended the call. Zuri stared up at him. They're coming. Yes, he said. They told us to stay inside. No lights, no movement near the windows. Amara stood quickly and began turning off lights, one by one. The living room dimmed into a quiet half-shade, where shapes blended into shadows. Zuri's breath felt louder in the darkness. Adewale sat beside her, keeping his voice low. Security is alert. The police are on their way. Just breathe. He can't touch you. But even as he said those words, Zuri felt her soul tug toward the window. Something deep inside her needed to know exactly where Kelechi was. Needed to see with her own eyes whether he was still out there. Fear gave her trembling legs, but fear also pushed her forward. She stood quietly, ignoring Amara's startled whisper, and crept toward the side window. She didn't open it. She didn't even touch the blinds. She looked through the tiniest slit between the curtains. Her heart stopped. Kelechi stood near the gate, not far enough for comfort, but far enough to watch the house, without appearing suspicious to strangers. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't shouting. He was still, too still, leaning against his car with his arms folded, staring directly toward the building, as if waiting, as if calculating, as if studying. Zuri's breath broke in a silent gasp. He looked different from how she remembered him. Not furious, not wild, but cold, detached, eyes hollow, a kind of quiet that frightened her more than the shouting ever did. She stepped back quickly from the window, covering her mouth to keep from screaming. Adewale saw her face and rushed to her. You saw him. She nodded rapidly, tears rolling down her cheeks. He's looking at the house. He's just standing there, watching. Adewale held her shoulders firmly. Zuri, look at me. She did. He cannot enter. He cannot reach you. He is outside. You are inside. And the police are coming. But reason did nothing to soothe the animal fear crawling beneath her skin. Minutes passed. Then more. Then more. Every heartbeat felt like a lifetime. A dew-like tension settled over the house, sticky and suffocating. Then, the sound of a siren, faint but growing. Adewale exhaled sharply. They're here. Zuri grabbed his arm, eyes wide. Don't open the door. I won't, Adewale said. Security will meet them. Through the window, Zuri saw blue lights blur across the compound walls. 2 officers stepped out of the patrol car and approached the estate gate with the security guard. Kelechi straightened immediately. His posture stiffened. His expression changed. And then something unexpected happened. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He didn't step forward. He simply got into his car, quietly, quickly, and drove away. Zuri's knees buckled. Adewale caught her before she fell. He left, she whispered, tears flowing uncontrollably. He finally left. Adewale held her tightly. Yes, because his power is fading, because the law is watching, because you stood up. Amara wrapped her arms around both of them, tears in her eyes as well. My sister, you survived the day. You survived the worst of it. Zuri sobbed into their shoulders. Years of silence, months of fear, days of threats, hours of tension, all collapsing into a single moment of release. As the police knocked softly on their door to check on them, Zuri wiped her eyes and whispered something she didn't expect to hear from her own lips. I'm not afraid of him anymore. And for the first time, it felt true. Zuri didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. Even though Kelechi had driven away when the police arrived, even though the officers assured them everything was under control, even though Adewale stayed awake in the living room like a human shield, her mind refused to rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him standing near the gate, silent, watching, calculating. She kept hearing his voice at the door. You can't hide forever. Open this door. We need to talk. Those words clung to her spirit like thorns. By the time morning light began creeping through the blinds, her eyes burned from exhaustion and her body felt weak, but her mind was more alert than ever. Something had shifted inside her. Not fear. Fear had been there all along, but a new, sharper awareness, like she had crossed into a new stage of survival. When she stepped out of the master bedroom, Adewale was still on the couch. He hadn't slept either. His eyes were red, his shoulders tense, but he forced a small smile. You're up, he said softly. Zuri nodded. Did you sleep at all? He shook his head. Didn't want to. I needed to be awake. Her chest tightened with gratitude. Thank you. He waved it off. Don't thank me. This is what brothers do. Amara came out of the kitchen with her wrapper tied around her waist, holding a mug of hot tea. Zuri, come and drink something. Your chest needs warmth. Zuri sat down and took the tea, letting the steam brush against her tired face. She didn't drink immediately. She just held the mug in both hands, grounding herself. Adewale cleared his throat. The officer called again this morning. They said they're opening a more formal case, since he showed up at our house. Zuri's heart thumped. So, something will happen to him now? Maybe not immediately, Adewale admitted. But this incident will not be ignored. They saw how shaken you were. They saw his threatening messages. They saw everything. Amara sat beside Zuri. This is a turning point, my sister. Zuri nodded slowly, though her breath still trembled. I hope so. Silence settled over the living room, a silence full of unspoken fears and quiet strength. Then Adewale spoke again. There's something else, he said carefully. Zuri looked up. Chinedu called me early this morning. Zuri froze. What? Why? To warn us, Adewale said. He said Kelechi didn't go home right after leaving here. Zuri's fingers tightened around her mug. Where did he go? Adewale hesitated. He went to a bar. He was drinking. A lot. Zuri felt a cold drop in her stomach. He drank until the bar closed. Adewale continued. Chinedu said he was shouting about you, about the police, about people trying to ruin his life. He left the bar angry. Zuri whispered, this man is falling apart. Adewale nodded. Yes, and that makes him unpredictable. But it also means his control is slipping. Very fast. Zuri stared at her hands. Fear and pity mixing in her chest like storm clouds. Not pity for him, but pity for the broken parts of him she never knew existed. The parts he hid behind arrogance. The parts that turned into violence. Adewale leaned forward. We need to stay alert today. Just today. After everything that happened last night, I don't think he'll try anything during the day. But unpredictable people don't follow logic. Zuri swallowed hard. I understand. Amara will stay with you, Adewale said. I'll step out briefly, but not far, and I'll keep checking in. Amara touched her shoulder. You'll be safe, my sister. For a moment, Zuri closed her eyes. She imagined a life where this nightmare was behind her, a life where her heart didn't jump at every sound, a life where her spirit wasn't tangled with fear. But she wasn't there yet. After breakfast, Adewale left the house briefly to meet the officer at the gate. Zuri stayed inside with Amara, trying to distract herself by helping with laundry. But her mind kept drifting. To last night, to Chinedu's warning, to the possibility of Kelechi spiraling further. While they folded clothes, Amara spoke softly. You know, strength doesn't always look like bravery. Sometimes strength is simply staying alive through fear. Zuri blinked. I don't feel strong. Because you're still inside the storm, Amara whispered. But when this storm passes, you'll see how powerful you really are. Zuri bit her lip, holding back tears. I just want this to end. It will, Amara said gently. Soon. But just as she said that, Zuri's phone buzzed. Zuri's heart dropped. She froze. Amara looked at her instantly. Don't check it. But Zuri couldn't help it. She leaned forward and saw the screen light up. Her stomach twisted violently when she read the notification. Unknown number, one new message. Her pulse exploded. Her breath quickened. Her fingers shook uncontrollably. Amara grabbed her hand. Let Adewale open it. Zuri nodded, tears filling her eyes. She couldn't handle another threat, another voice, another reminder that he was watching her. Just then, the gate outside made a loud metallic sound. A car approaching, a vehicle stopping, a door opening. Zuri's entire body went cold. She rushed to the window and peeked through the tiniest opening. Her breath shattered again. A silver car, parked near the gate, engine running, door open. Her whole body froze. Kelechi, she whispered. He's back. Amara rushed to her side. Step away from the window. But Zuri couldn't move. Kelechi stepped out of the car, slowly, unsteadily, like someone who hadn't truly slept in days. He stood there, gripping the top of the car door, staring in the direction of Adewale's house. His eyes looked darker, his shoulders tense, his spirit unstable. Zuri's breath hitched painfully. He wasn't shouting this time. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't banging on any door. He was simply standing, waiting, watching, as if weighing his next move. Amara pulled Zuri forcefully away from the window. Don't look. Don't panic. Just breathe. Zuri covered her mouth and stumbled backward, tears spilling down her cheeks. This man will not stop, she whispered. He will not stop until something terrible happens. Amara held her tightly. Nothing will happen. He won't get past the gate. But Zuri could feel it deep in her bones. A terrible, creeping intuition. Kelechi wasn't there to talk. He wasn't there to apologize. He wasn't there to reason. He had lost control. Completely. And when a man like him loses control, he becomes dangerous in ways she never imagined. Zuri clung to Amara, trembling so hard her teeth chattered. Every part of her body screamed for safety, yet her mind kept replaying the image of Kelechi stepping out of the silver car, slow, deliberate, unblinking. It wasn't the loud, furious version of him she feared most. It was this silent one, the one who didn't speak, the one who didn't move much, the one who just watched. Silence from an unstable person was scarier than shouting. Amara held her tightly. Zuri, listen to me. You are safe. He cannot enter this estate without security approval, and he knows security is watching. Zuri shook her head in a panic. But why is he just standing there? Why isn't he leaving? Why is he waiting? Because he wants you afraid, Amara whispered. Fear is the last power he thinks he has left. Zuri's breath trembled. I can't go through this again. Last night nearly broke me. You are not broken, Amara said firmly. You are wounded. There is a difference. Before either of them could say more, they heard footsteps approaching quickly. The front door opened and Adewale rushed in, his face pale with anger but his movements controlled. He had seen the silver car too. Adewale locked the door behind him and lowered his voice. Zuri, come here. She stepped toward him, still shaking, her fingers cold, her knees weak. I just came from the officer, Adewale said. They're sending someone immediately. They told security to keep him from moving further into the compound. Zuri's eyes filled with tears. Why is he back? Why won't he stop? Adewale placed both hands on her shoulders. Because he is losing control. Because he knows the police are watching him. Because his lies aren't working anymore. Zuri sobbed into her palm. I feel like I'm suffocating. Adewale guided her to the couch. Sit. Breathe. Let me handle everything. Zuri sat, burying her face in her hands. Adewale stood near the window, not too close, but close enough to monitor the situation discreetly. Amara paced the room silently, whispering prayers under her breath. Seconds crawled by, then minutes. Each one stretched like hours. Zuri finally raised her head, staring blankly at her hands. He won't leave, Adewale. He's waiting for me. He wants to scare me into backing down, into dropping everything. Adewale nodded grimly. Exactly. He wants to break your spirit. That is the only power he thinks he has left. Zuri wiped her tears. And it's working. I feel like I'm losing myself. Adewale sat beside her. Then borrow strength from us until yours returns. That's what family is for. She leaned into him, silently weeping. A long moment passed before Adewale spoke again. Zuri, Chinedu called me while I was at the gate. She lifted her head slightly. What did he say? He said Kelechi hasn't been eating. He hasn't been sleeping. He's been drinking, pacing, shouting at anyone who tries to talk to him. Chinedu said he's not himself. Zuri shut her eyes tightly. He stopped being himself the night he hurt me. Adewale nodded. But now he's unraveling publicly. That's the difference. And people around him are starting to see it. Zuri swallowed. Does he know I spoke to Chinedu? No, Adewale said. Chinedu would never tell him that. But Kelechi knows someone in his circle is leaking information. That's why he's unraveling. Zuri felt a long shiver roll down her spine. Then he's desperate. Adewale nodded slowly. Yes, and desperation makes men like him unpredictable. Zuri's breath trembled. So what do? We stay inside, Adewale said. We wait for the officers. We don't respond to his calls. And we don't show our faces at any window. Zuri nodded. Amara joined them on the couch and held Zuri's hand. My sister. Storms look the scariest when they're about to end. Zuri whispered. It doesn't feel like it's ending. It feels like it's getting worse. And sometimes things get worse before they get better, Amara said softly. Zuri leaned her head on Amara's shoulder, eyes shut tight, listening to the sound of her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Adewale walked back to the window. Suddenly he stiffened. What is it? Amara asked, rushing over. Zuri's breath hitched. Adewale motioned for silence. They all stood still. Footsteps outside. Heavy ones. Slow ones. Coming closer. Zuri's heart dropped. He wasn't at the gate anymore. He was inside the compound. Adewale turned sharply. Security let someone in by mistake. Zuri gasped. He's coming to the house. Adewale grabbed his phone. Stay behind me. Don't move. Don't make a sound. He dialed quickly. Officer. He's inside the estate. He somehow bypassed the gate. Yes. Please hurry. Zuri covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Amara grabbed her hand tightly. The footsteps grew louder outside the front door. Closer. Closer. Right outside. Adewale stood between them and the door, chest rising and falling in hard breaths. The footsteps stopped. Silence. A terrifying silence. Zuri felt her knees weaken. Adewale whispered, Don't make a sound. Seconds passed like entire lifetimes. Then, a hand touched the doorknob from the outside. Zuri's entire body collapsed into silent terror. He wasn't knocking. He wasn't shouting. He was trying to come in. Zuri clung to Amara, shaking violently, her breath trapped in her chest. Adewale raised his voice sharply. If you try that again, you will regret it. The police are on their way. Silence again. No footsteps. No voice. No movement. Just stillness. A deadly stillness. Then, the sound of someone walking away. Slow. Deliberate. Threatening. Zuri collapsed onto the couch, sobbing in fear. Adewale knelt beside her. It's okay. He's backing off. Amara held her tightly. My sister, breathe. But Zuri's spirit felt shattered, not because he came, but because he tried to enter silently. That meant one thing. He wasn't here to talk. He wasn't here to argue. He wasn't here to shout. He had come with a different intention altogether, and that realization struck Zuri's heart with a cold, terrifying truth she didn't want to accept. Kelechi was becoming dangerous in a way she had never imagined. The moment the footsteps faded from the doorway, the entire house felt like it exhaled in fear. Zuri's sobs came in broken gasps, her fingernails digging into the couch fabric as if she needed something solid to keep from falling apart completely. Adewale stayed kneeling beside her, one hand steady on her shoulder, the other gripping his phone tightly. His jaw was clenched so hard the veins in his neck stood out, but his voice, when he spoke, was firm and steady. "Zuri," he said quietly, "look at me." She lifted her head slowly, her face wet with tears, her chest shaking. "You survived that moment," Adewale said. "Do you hear me? You survived it. He tried to shake you, but you're still here. You're still breathing. He didn't break you." But Zuri shook her head, voice barely a whisper. "Adewale," he tried to open the door. He tried to come inside. If the door wasn't locked. Amara wrapped both arms around her. "Stop. Don't let your mind finish that thought. Fear is trying to write its own story. Don't let it." But Zuri couldn't stop trembling. The silence outside the front door felt deceptive, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Every creak of the building made her jump. Every distant sound made her flinch. Minutes passed. No footsteps. No voice. No knock. Just quiet. A quiet so heavy it made her ears ring. Adewale stood up and moved quietly toward the window, careful not to expose himself. He peeked through the side, eyes narrowing. "He's not at the door anymore," he whispered. Zuri held her breath. Adewale continued. "He's pacing near the flowers by the walkway. He's on the phone. He's arguing with someone." "Probably Chinidu," Amara said softly. "Maybe his family is trying to calm him." Zuri shook her head. "He's not listening to anyone." Her voice cracked on the last word, her fear clawing at her throat. Adewale stepped away from the window and paced the room, his mind working rapidly. "The police are coming. Security has been alerted. They won't let him get far." Zuri swallowed hard. "But he's already inside." "Yes," Adewale said. "And this time, they won't overlook that." Amara clasped Zuri's hands, speaking with quiet intensity. "My sister, listen to me. This is his last fight. Men like him always get loudest when their lives start collapsing. He is afraid of losing control. That's why he's acting like this." Zuri nodded slowly, though her body was still trembling. Suddenly, the sound of a gate slamming shut outside. Adewale rushed back to the window. Zuri's heartbeat skyrocketed. "Is it him?" she whispered. Adewale squinted. "No, it's the police patrol. They're here." Zuri's breath finally released, her lungs expanding painfully as tears of relief gathered in her eyes. Amara whispered, Thank God they came quickly." 2 officers got out of the patrol vehicle. One spoke with the estate security guard while the other scanned surroundings. Then, Kelechi reacted. He turned sharply, his body tensing like a cornered animal. Zuri watched through the small crack in the curtain as he froze, staring at the officers. For a moment, a very long moment, Zuri didn't know what he would do. Would he run? Would he argue? Would he shout? Would he try to force his way into the house out of desperation? Her breath tightened. But then, he lifted his hands in a gesture of surrender, stepped away from the walkway, and began talking rapidly to the officers. Zuri couldn't hear him, but she knew that tone, that pleading voice, that sudden shift from anger to innocence. Adewale whispered sharply, "He's lying. He's trying to twist the story again." Amara nodded. "He always does." The officers didn't appear convinced. They exchanged glances. One took out a small notebook. Another asked a question that made Kelechi shake his head aggressively. Zuri's heart thudded. Then, one officer pointed toward Adewale's house. Another pointed toward the car. And the first officer placed a firm hand on Kelechi's shoulder, directing him away from the walkway. They were escorting him away. Zuri's chest finally loosened, tears spilling silently down her cheeks. Adewale stepped toward her and gently held her. "It's okay. It's over. He's leaving." But Zuri shook her head slowly. "No, Adewale, this is not over. He came back twice. He waited outside. He tried the door. He could have done anything. Adewale held her tighter. Yes, and that is exactly why the police are involved. He can't get away with this anymore. Zuri took a shaky breath. I feel like I've been running for days. Amara stroked her back gently. That's because you have. Running from fear. Running from memories. Running from the unknown. Zuri wiped her face. I want peace again. And you'll get it, Amara whispered. Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon. Adewale sat beside her. The police asked me to bring you to the station later. Not for questioning. Just to give a clearer statement about today. Just give the more ground act. Zuri nodded, exhausted. I'll go. Silence settled over the living room again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It wasn't dread. It wasn't panic. It was relief. Or something close to it. Because for the first time since Kelechi's spiral began, someone stronger than him intervened. Someone with real authority. Someone who could stop him. Zuri took a deep, steadying breath. Her shoulders loosened. Her heartbeat softened. Her mind cleared. And in that moment, she realized something powerful. Last night, she had been afraid for her life. Today, she had survived danger face to face. And now, the law was watching him. She wasn't powerless anymore. She wasn't alone. She wasn't trapped. She was rising. Slowly, painfully, bravely, but rising all the same. Adewale squeezed her hand. You know what today proves? Zuri looked up weakly. What? You are not the victim he wants you to be. Adewale said softly. You are the woman he can no longer intimidate. Zuri exhaled deeply, tears falling again. But this time, they weren't only tears of fear. They were tears of strength. The next morning arrived with a softness Zuri hadn't felt in days. The sunlight slipped through the curtains gently, not sharply, as if the universe itself knew she had survived something terrible and deserved a few moments of quiet. She sat up slowly in the master bedroom, her body heavy with exhaustion, but her spirit steadier than yesterday. Last night had been a turning point, not because the danger was over, but because she had faced it and made it through. She walked into the living room, finding Adewale already dressed and pacing with his phone pressed to his ear. He turned the moment he heard her footsteps and ended the call. You're awake, he said softly. Zuri nodded. Did you sleep at all? For a few minutes, he replied, waving it off. The officers called early. They want us at the station by noon. They want to take an official statement about everything that happened yesterday. The messages, the attempt to open the door, him entering the state without permission. Zuri swallowed. Okay, I'll go. Adewale sat beside her. Zuri, listen. Yesterday was terrifying. It shook all of us. But it also gave the police what they needed to take this seriously. What he did wasn't just harassment. It was an attempted confrontation under a police alert. That's a big deal. Zuri nodded slowly. I know. I just hope they finally stop him. Amara walked out of the kitchen with warm oatmeal and placed it gently in front of Zuri. Eat small first, my sister. Your body needs strength for today. Zuri managed a small spoonful, though her appetite was weak. Her nerves felt tangled, but she tried to steady herself. She wasn't the same woman from Chapter 1. Each day had peeled something away, her silence, her fear, her shame. And even though she trembled today, she carried a strength inside her she didn't have before. Adewale cleared his throat. Chinedu sent me a message, too. Zuri's breath hitched. What did he say? He said Kelechi didn't sleep again. He was on the phone with someone all night, shouting and pacing. Chinedu thinks he's panicking. Zuri blinked slowly. He should panic. He brought all of this on himself. Adewale nodded. But don't let his panic make you afraid. This is his storm, not yours. Zuri exhaled shakily. Part of me still fears he will show up again. And part of you knows he won't, Adewale said. The police warned him last night. They know his car. They know his face. If he enters this estate again without permission, they won't escort him away. They'll arrest him. Zuri nodded, letting those words soak into cracks inside her. Hours passed slowly. Zuri dressed in a simple blouse and trousers, her hands shaking slightly as she buttoned them. Adewale drove her to the police station while Amara stayed behind, promising to cook, pray, and wait for their return. The drive felt long even though the station wasn't far. Zuri kept her eyes on the window, watching buildings pass by in a blur. She expected to see Kelechi's car at every corner, her heart tightening each time a silver vehicle appeared in the distance. When they arrived, the officer who had been handling her case greeted them with a professional nod and brought them into a small office. Zuri sat, hands folded tightly in her lap. "Ms. Zuri," the officer said calmly, "first, we want to commend your bravery. Not many women report these kinds of incidents, especially when the perpetrator is someone they know personally." Zuri blinked, tears filling her eyes. "Thank you." The officer continued, "We have documented everything that happened yesterday. The fact that he entered a gated estate while under police watch, attempted to approach your residence, and tried to manipulate the situation with lies makes this more serious." Zuri nodded. The officer leaned forward. "We want to assure you that you did the right thing, and we will take this case to the next stage." Zuri let out a shaky breath. "What does that mean?" Adewale placed a comforting hand on her arm. The officer replied, "It means we will issue a formal warning. If he violates it, he will be detained. And with the evidence you're providing today, including his messages, we will recommend a restraining order." Zuri felt her chest tighten, but not with fear. This time, it was relief. A breath she had been holding for days slowly escaped her lungs. A restraining order. A line he could not cross. A barrier she desperately needed. They spent the next 2 hours giving a detailed statement. Zuri described everything. The threats, the messages, the voice at the door, the attempt to open it, the pacing outside, the circling around the estate, the unpredictable behavior. When she finished, she felt drained but lighter, as if she had emptied the weight she had been carrying. The officer collected the documents and stood. "We will contact him formally today. He will be required to come in. If he refuses, we will issue a warrant. From this moment, you are not alone." Zuri's eyes filled with tears, this time tears of gratitude. Thank you so much." Adewale placed an arm around her shoulders. "Let's go home." The drive back was silent, but not heavy. Zuri stared out the window again, this time noticing the world more clearly. The sky, the trees, the people going about their day. For the first time in a long time, the world didn't feel like a threat. When they returned home, Amara rushed to them. "How did it go?" Zuri hugged her tightly. "Better than I expected. They're taking action. Real action." Amara's smile was warm. "Then today is the beginning of a new chapter." Zuri nodded, but as she stepped inside, she received another message on her phone. Her heart skipped. A new number. Not saved. Not familiar. She hesitated. Adewale stepped close. "Open it. I'm here." She tapped the message, and her breath caught in her chest. "Chinedu. Zuri, please be careful." He left the house again. He's not listening to anyone. Zuri's vision blurred. Adewale left the house again. Adewale clenched his fists. "Don't panic. He won't dare come here today. Not after what happened yesterday. He knows police are watching him." Zuri nodded, though fear twisted lightly inside her chest. But Chinedu sent another message almost instantly. "Chinedu, I think someone told him you went to the station today." Zuri froze. "Someone told him," she whispered. Adewale's face hardened. "Who would do that?" Amara's voice trembled. "Oh, God." And then another message arrived. "Chinedu, Zuri, I think he's coming to confront you." Zuri's breath vanished. Adewale grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. This time is different. The police are already watching him. He won't get far." But Zuri felt something deeper. A cold, heavy intuition that curved deep into her bones. "He's coming," she whispered. "I can feel it." Zuri's breath trembled as she clutched the phone in both hands. The room around her seemed to blur. Adewale's worried face, Amara's trembling fingers, the quietness of the house. Everything felt far away, as if her spirit had stepped outside her body in shock. "He's coming to confront you." Those words replayed over and over in her mind like a drumbeat that refused to stop. Amara moved quickly to her side. Zuri, my sister, sit down. Breathe. Don't let fear take control. Zuri slowly lowered herself onto the couch, her chest rising and falling in shaky waves. Why is this happening again? Why won't he stop? After everything yesterday, after the police, after everything. Adewale sat beside her, his voice calm but firm. This is not your fault. This is him fighting the consequences of his own actions. He thinks he can intimidate you into silence one more time. He doesn't realize he has already lost. Zuri wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. But what if he comes before the police can reach him? Adewale squeezed her hand. Security now knows his car and face. They've been told not to let him in. Yesterday's mistake won't happen again. Zuri nodded slowly, trying to steady her breathing. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. But the memory of Kelechi's hand on the doorknob yesterday haunted her. His quiet rage frightened her more than his shouting ever did. Her phone buzzed again. Her heart jumped violently. Adewale grabbed the phone from her hand before she could even react. He checked the screen and exhaled sharply. It's Chinedu again. He opened the message. Chinedu. He's walking out of the compound now. He's not driving. He looks strange. Please be careful. Zuri felt a chill crawl across her skin. Walking? Why would he be walking? Adewale stood, pacing. Because he doesn't want to be tracked. Because he thinks it makes him less noticeable. It means he's desperate. Zuri covered her mouth as fear surged again. He knows where we live. Yes, Adewale said, but he won't get past security. Yet even he didn't sound fully convinced. Amara clasped Zuri's hand. Let's pray small. A loud metallic sound echoed outside. A car door. The state gate opening. A muffled voice arguing. Zuri's heart collided against her ribs. Adewale rushed to the window, careful not to expose his face. He peered through the narrow gap between the curtains, his breath held. Amara and Zuri stayed frozen, waiting for his reaction. When Adewale turned around, his face was tense. He's at the main gate, Adewale said. Security stopped him. Zuri's breath caught painfully. Is he arguing? He looks angry, Adewale said quietly. He's talking fast, gesturing. He's trying to convince them to let him in. Zuri clutched her chest. Oh, God. Adewale returned to her side immediately. Listen to me. He cannot enter. Security won't allow it. They already called the officer. Zuri closed her eyes tightly. I just want him to stop. I want him gone. He will stop, Adewale said softly. But right now he's afraid, and fear makes angry men louder. Another loud sound echoed outside, the unmistakable scrape of feet on gravel. Footsteps. Adewale stiffened. He's pacing near the gate. Security is keeping him back. Amara rose to her feet. Should we hide somewhere? Should Zuri go to the back room? No, Adewale said. We stay inside. We stay calm. We don't show panic. Zuri leaned back, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Why is he doing this to me? Why can't he let me go? Adewale crouched in front of her and held both her hands. Because losing control is painful for men who have lived their entire lives controlling others. But you, Zuri, you broke that cycle. You took back your power, and he can't stand it. Zuri sniffed, but I'm still scared. It's okay to be scared, Adewale said. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to stand anyway. Amara nodded, her voice soft. And you are standing, my sister. You are standing more than you know. Another message came in. Adewale looked at the phone. Chinedu. He just tried to run past the gate. They stopped him. Zuri gasped sharply. He tried to run inside? Adewale nodded slowly, fury building in his eyes. Yes, and that means the police will see him as a threat now. Zuri shook her head, overwhelmed. This is madness. He's never behaved like this before. Because you've never resisted him before, Adewale replied. He thrived on your silence. Now your voice terrifies him. A minute later, another message arrived. Chinedu. The officers are on their way again. I'm sorry, Zuri. I should have tried harder to stop him. Zuri whispered, It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Adewale rubbed her arm. He's just warning us. He's doing his best. Zuri leaned her head back and closed her eyes, breathing slowly. She had survived yesterday. She had survived last night. She could survive today too. But her heart felt heavy. Her soul felt bruised. And still, she was here, breathing, standing, fighting. Suddenly, voices rose at the gate. Not shouting, but firm, dominant voices. Adewale peeked through the window again. It's the police, he whispered. They arrived faster this time. Zuri's chest tightened. Is he still there? Adewale nodded. Yes, they're speaking to him. They look serious. Amara stood behind Adewale, peeking through the curtains. What is he doing? He's trying to explain himself, Adewale said. But they aren't listening to that nonsense today. And then, Zuri saw it too, through the tiniest slit of the curtain. Kelechi's posture changed. His shoulders fell. His head lowered. His voice quieted. The fight left his body. It was the first time she had ever seen him look small. The officers gestured toward the exit gate. Security opened it. Kelechi stepped out, not with confidence, not with bravado, not with control. He stepped out with defeat. The gate closed behind him. Adewale exhaled heavily. Amara placed a hand on her chest. Zuri's tears fell silently. Not tears of fear this time, but tears of release. He was gone, for now, but gone. And something inside her spirit finally loosened, untangling itself from the grip of terror. But then, another message buzzed on Adewale's phone. He checked it. His expression changed instantly. No, he whispered. Zuri's stomach clenched. What? Adewale looked at her slowly. It's from the officer. Zuri's heart raced. What did they say? Adewale swallowed hard. They told Kelechi to leave, but they also said his behavior is not normal. They fear he might try again. They told us to stay alert for the rest of the day. Zuri's hands trembled again. You mean this isn't finished? Adewale's voice was soft but honest. No, Zuri. This story, this fight, this danger is not over yet. The words echoed through the room like a warning thrown from the future. This story, this fight, this danger is not over yet. Zuri felt her breath catch painfully. She stared at Adewale, searching his face for reassurance, for comfort, for anything that would soften the weight of those words. But all she saw was truth, not cruelty, not fear, just truth, raw, honest, and necessary. Amara sat down slowly beside Zuri, her eyes wide with worry. What exactly did the officer say? She asked softly. Adewale inhaled deeply before speaking. They said his behavior is unstable. They've seen people like him before. People who don't accept consequences. People who think they're above the law. The officer said he might attempt something again before he finally stops. Zuri pressed her palm flat against her chest. Why won't he just leave me alone? Why does he keep coming back? Adewale sat beside her, speaking gently. Because he has lost everything that made him feel powerful. And when a man like him feels powerless, he clings to the one thing he thinks he can still control. Me, Zuri whispered, her voice shaking. Adewale nodded. Yes, but he won't control you anymore. Not now. Not ever again. Zuri wiped her tears, but they kept falling. I don't want to live like this, waiting for him to appear, waiting for the next message, the next threat, the next knock on the door. You won't, Adewale said firmly. Today might be hard, but tomorrow will be better, and the day after that will be better still. Healing is slow, but it is steady. Zuri tried to breathe deeply, but her chest felt tight, as if the air had to fight its way inside her lungs. I just want peace, she said again, softer this time. Real peace. And you will have it, Amara whispered, placing a calming hand on her back. Storms are loudest before they disappear. Just hold on. The three of them sat quietly for a moment, listening to the muffled sound of the state outside, the hum of a generator in the distance, soft footsteps from neighbors walking by, the faint breeze brushing against the windows. It felt strange how normal the world sounded while her own world felt like it was shaking. A few minutes later, Adewale's phone buzzed again. Zuri jumped violently. Adewale grabbed it quickly. "It's the officer," he said. "Let me answer." Zuri's breath halted. "Hello," Adewale said. He listened for several seconds, his eyebrows rising. "Yes, I understand. Thank you. We appreciate it." He ended the call. "What did they say?" Zuri asked immediately. Adewale exhaled. "They told us that 2 officers will patrol the estate for the rest of today. They'll stay close to this street. They're taking his behavior very seriously." Zuri felt some of the tension in her shoulders ease. "So we're protected?" "Yes," Adewale said. And the officer also said something else. Something important. Amara leaned closer. "What is it?" They spoke to him again. Adewale said, "Right after escorting him out." Zuri stiffened. "And?" Adewale's voice lowered. "They warn him that if he comes near this estate again today, they won't ask questions. They'll detain him immediately." Zuri's breath trembled. "Will that stop him?" "It should," Adewale said. "A man like him might not care about humiliation, but he cares about being arrested, being locked up, having a record. That scares him." Zuri nodded slowly. A fragile calm settled over her chest, though fear still hovered like a shadow she couldn't completely shake. After some time, Amara brought warm food, but Zuri barely managed a few spoonfuls. "Eat small," Amara urged. "You need strength. Fear drains a body." "I'm trying," Zuri said gently. "I promise." Adewale watched her closely. "Zuri, listen. We need to talk about something that's coming next." Zuri's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "A restraining order," he said. "The officer is preparing it. But when it's issued, he will know. He will be angry. So we need to be strong for that moment. After he reacts, things will calm." Zuri closed her eyes, tears pooling again. "I don't want him angry. I don't want him thinking of me at all. I want him gone from my life completely." "And he will be," Adewale assured her. "But this is a part of the process where things feel loudest, painful, uncomfortable. Once he realizes he has no access to you, not emotionally, not physically, not legally, he will fade." Zuri nodded slowly, letting the truth settle in. Okay. She stood up and walked toward the balcony door. The glass was closed, the curtains pulled, but she placed her hand against the cool surface. She watched the world outside in silence. Children were walking home from school. A woman was sweeping her compound. A fruit seller pushed a wheelbarrow of oranges. Life was happening. Normal life. Life that didn't include fear. She wanted that life back. As she stood there, the sun began to lower on the horizon, casting a soft orange glow across the estate. For the first time, the sunset brought her comfort instead of dread. Adewale approached her quietly. "Do you want to step outside?" he asked. "To the veranda? Just for a minute?" Zuri hesitated. Her fear told her no. Her spirit told her yes. "Yes," she whispered. Adewale unlocked the veranda door, stepping out first to check the surroundings. When he nodded, Zuri stepped out slowly. The air was fresh, the world quiet, the sky peaceful. She inhaled deeply, her first full breath in days. Amara joined them, standing on her left. Adewale stood on her right. The 3 of them stared out at the estate, as if claiming the space back from fear. For a long moment, Zuri felt something lift off her chest. Not everything, not fully, but something, a small piece of freedom. She whispered, "I'm still here." Adewale squeezed her shoulder. "Yes, you're still here. And you're safe," Amara added. Zuri closed her eyes, letting the warm breeze touch her face. When she opened them again, she said something she didn't expect. Something soft but powerful. "I'm ready for whatever happens next." And she meant it, not because she felt strong, but because she wasn't facing it alone. The next morning arrived slowly, as if even the sun was hesitant to rise after the chaos of the previous days. Zuri lay awake long before dawn, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the early morning air. She hadn't slept, but she didn't feel as suffocated as she once did. The fear was still there, yes, sitting silently in the corner of her heart, but it wasn't choking her anymore. It wasn't holding her breath hostage. She sat up and stretched her fingers. Her body ached from tension, her eyes burned from exhaustion, but her spirit felt different. Not healed, not whole, but steadier, resilient. When she stepped into the living room, Adewale was already awake. Seated on the couch with his laptop open and papers spread out, he looked up as she entered, offering a tired but warm smile. "You didn't sleep," he said. Zuri mirrored the smile faintly. "Neither did you." He shrugged. "Sleep can wait until you're safe." Zuri walked closer and sat across from him. "I'm sorry you're going through this because of me." Adewale shook his head firmly. "Don't say that. You didn't cause this." "He did. And I'd rather lose sleep than lose you." Zuri's chest tightened with emotion. She lowered her eyes, blinking away tears she didn't want to shed this early. A moment later, Amara emerged from the hallway wearing her wrapper and hair bonnet, rubbing her eyes. "Good morning," she murmured. Zuri stood to hug her. "Good morning." Amara's warm arms wrapped around her shoulders. "I prayed half the night for you. God is watching every step." Zuri swallowed. "I know." They all shared a quiet moment before Amara went into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Adewale closed his laptop and leaned forward. "The officers left a message at 6 a.m., he said. "They said they'll finalize the restraining order today. Once that's done, he cannot come near you legally. If he tries, he'll be arrested." Zuri nodded slowly. "And what happens next?" "They'll call him in," Adewale said. "And this time, he won't be able to avoid it." The thought made Zuri's heart stir painfully. Kelechi being questioned. Kelechi facing the law. Kelechi answering for everything he'd done. It felt surreal, like something she had only imagined in her dreams. But before relief could settle, fear crept back into her chest. "What if he comes again today?" she whispered. "Before the restraining order becomes official?" Adewale exhaled. "We're prepared. The police are patrolling. Security knows him. And Chinedu is warning us from his side." Zuri's eyes softened. "Chinedu, I never expected help from someone in his family." "Sometimes the truth becomes too heavy to keep inside," Adewale said. "Even for family." Zuri nodded, thinking about everything she had learned about Kelechi in the past few days. The way he treated Nena, his history of anger, the lies he spun effortlessly, the pain he buried under arrogance. She whispered, "I didn't know he was capable of this. All of this. I thought I knew him." Adewale reached out and held her hand gently. "Abusers show you only the parts of themselves they need you to see. The rest stays hidden until something disturbs their control." Zuri looked down at her intertwined fingers. "And that something was me standing up for myself." Adewale nodded. "Exactly. The moment you stopped obeying his fear, he lost his grip." Zuri inhaled deeply, letting the truth settle inside her. After breakfast, Zuri went to take a shower. The warm water hit her skin like tiny drops of comfort, loosening the tightness in her muscles. She let the water run over her face, the sound drowning out the noise in her mind. She was rinsing her arms when she suddenly remembered something, a moment from last night, a sound she had ignored, a detail she hadn't processed. When Kelechi was pacing near the walkway, just before the police arrived, she had heard something, a faint metallic click, like a car door or a trunk opening. Zuri's breath hitched under the running water. She turned off the shower abruptly and grabbed a towel, her heartbeat rising. What if he had been preparing something? What if he wasn't just pacing? What if... She shook her head hard. "No. Stop. Don't jump to conclusions," she told herself aloud. But the thought lingered. When she returned to the living room, Adewale immediately noticed the panic on her face. "What happened?" Zuri sat down. I remembered something from last night." Adewale leaned forward. "Tell me." "When he was near the flowers, before the police came, I heard a sound, like a car trunk opening. Adewale stiffened. Are you sure? Zuri nodded. I think so. I didn't realize it then, but now it's all I can think about. Amara joined them instantly, worry etching her face. You think he planned something? I don't know, Zuri whispered. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was something. But it scares me. Adewale rubbed his forehead. I'll report it to the officer. Even if it's nothing, they need to check. They need to know how unstable he is. He stood and stepped aside to make the call, his voice low but urgent. Zuri sat with Amara, who wrapped an arm around her. Fear magnifies memories, my sister, but you did the right thing by speaking. Zuri nodded, but something inside her spirit told her she had not imagined the sound. A moment later, Adewale returned. His expression was serious. The officer said they will investigate it. They'll check his car today. Zuri's stomach tightened. And if they find something? Adewale didn't answer immediately. Then he said, it will only make your case stronger. Zuri exhaled shakily. Her body still trembled slightly, but she felt grateful she had remembered before it was too late. The rest of the morning passed quietly. No calls, no messages, no signs of Kelechi, but the tension still lingered in the air, like the atmosphere just before rainfall. Around noon, Zuri's phone buzzed again. Her heart jumped. Her fingers froze. Adewale took the phone immediately. Zuri watched his face carefully. What does it say? She whispered. Adewale looked up, eyes unreadable. It's Chinedu. Zuri's heartbeat slowed barely. What did he say? Adewale showed her the screen. Chinedu. Zuri, please be prepared. I overheard him on the phone. He's planning something. I think he wants to talk to you before the police serve him officially. Zuri felt the blood drain from her face. Talk to me? She repeated, voice trembling. Why? What does he want to say? Another message arrived instantly. Chinedu. I don't know, but his voice. Zuri, he sounds desperate. Not angry. Desperate. Zuri's breath stalled. Desperate. Not furious. Not shouting. Not ranting. Desperate. Adewale sat down slowly. If desperation is what's driving him now, he said quietly, then today may be the most unpredictable day yet. Zuri swallowed hard. I thought yesterday was the worst, she whispered. Adewale shook his head slowly. No, Zuri, the day someone feels their world crumbling is the day they do the unexpected. Zuri's body trembled, and deep inside her, she felt it. Today wasn't just another chapter. Today was approaching a breaking point. The moment the word desperate settled in the air, the atmosphere inside Adewale's living room shifted. It became heavier, tighter, like the quiet before a storm that everyone could sense but no one could see. Zuri felt her chest tighten, her breaths becoming shallow again. She knew anger. She knew rage. She knew intimidation. She had faced all those versions of Kelechi before. But desperation? Desperation was different. Desperation was dangerous in ways that were unpredictable. Adewale rubbed the bridge of his nose, pacing slowly across the room. Desperation means he's losing grip on everything he thought he controlled. Amara clasped her hands together, and when a man like that loses grip, he tries to hold on to whatever he can, no matter the cost. Zuri swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. But what does he want? Why does he want to talk to me so badly? Adewale stopped pacing and sat opposite her, his expression serious. Because talking is the last tool he has left. He knows the police are closing in. He knows a restraining order is coming. He knows his lies online are starting to lose strength. He knows Chinedu is no longer covering for him. So he wants to speak to you before everything collapses. Zuri felt her stomach twist. To say what? Adewale hesitated. Possibly to manipulate you into dropping the report, or to blame you again, or to make himself feel better, or to confuse you. Zuri leaned back into the couch, tears filling her eyes. I don't want to hear anything from him. I don't want to see him. I don't want him near me. You won't, Adewale said firmly. You won't go anywhere near him. You won't respond to him. You won't open the door if he comes. The police are already waiting for him to misstep. But Zuri felt something else. something deeper than fear, a sense of finality, as if something big, something irreversible was approaching. Her phone buzzed again. She flinched so hard Amara rushed to her side. "It's okay. It might be Chinedu again," Adewale said as he picked up the phone. He was right. Adewale opened a message. Chinedu. He left the house 5 minutes ago. He was pacing, talking to himself. He looked unstable. "I'm worried." Zuri's throat tightened. "He left? Is he coming here?" Adewale exhaled slowly. "Not necessarily. We don't know where he's going. But the police are on high alert now. They told me any movement from him will be monitored." Amara clasped her chest. "This man is troubling my spirit." Another message came immediately. Chinedu. He said something strange before he left. He said, "I need to fix this before they destroy everything." Zuri stared at those words until her vision blurred. "Fix this," she whispered. "Fix what? Fix who? What does that mean?" Adewale sat beside her. "It means he believes confronting you is the only way to regain control of the situation. But he won't get close. Not this time." Zuri shook her head. "Adewale, you said that yesterday, too." "And I meant it," he said, taking her hand. "But today, we're not just waiting. We're prepared." He turned to Amara. "Lock all windows. Close every curtain. Don't leave Zuri's side." Amara nodded, already moving. Adewale took out his phone again and dialed the officer. "Good morning, officer." "Yes, it's Adewale. He left his house. Yes, we think he's agitated. Please keep the patrol close. We're staying inside." Zuri could hear the officer's voice faintly through the phone. Calm, serious, reassuring. Adewale ended the call. They're increasing patrol frequency. They're aware he might attempt something. Zuri wrapped her arms around her chest. "I feel like my life is on pause. Like I'm waiting for something terrible to happen." Adewale shook his head. "You're waiting for justice, not tragedy." She didn't respond. She couldn't. Her thoughts were swirling too fast. Why today? Why this morning? Why that strange sentence? "I need to fix this before they destroy everything"? It didn't sound like anger. It sounded like desperation mixed with delusion. Suddenly, there was movement at the gate. Not loud, but clear. Zuri stiffened immediately. Adewale rushed the window, but looked through the smallest gap possible. Amara held Zuri's hand tightly. Adewale squinted. "It's not him. It's a patrol officer." Zuri exhaled shakily. Amara whispered something like a prayer. Adewale continued watching. "They're checking cars entering and leaving the estate. That's new." "Good," Zuri whispered. "Maybe they'll stop him." A few minutes passed. The patrol drove further down the street. Everything went still again. Then, Zuri's phone buzzed one more time. She closed her eyes, gripping Amara's hand. Adewale picked up the phone. He opened the new message. His expression changed. Slowly, deeply. "What?" Zuri whispered, her voice cracking. Adewale swallowed hard and turned the screen toward her. "Chinedu." He didn't go through the front gate. He left through the side footpath. "Zuri, be careful." Zuri felt her soul drop. "Side footpath," she whispered. "That leads straight to this area." Adewale nodded, voice low and controlled. "Yes, and that means he's trying to avoid security." Zuri covered her mouth. Amara stood still, lips trembling. "Jesus." Adewale stood tall, anger and fear burning behind his eyes. "This confirms it. He's not thinking clearly. He's acting on impulse. And that makes him unpredictable." Zuri's breath broke. "He's coming here. He's coming now." Adewale grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me. Look at me. You are not alone. We're here. The police are close. You will not face him. You will not speak to him. And he will not get inside." But Zuri's intuition, the same intuition that saved her life the first night, was screaming inside her. "He's coming," she whispered. "I feel it." Adewale turned sharply to the door, eyes narrowed, body still. Amara pulled Zuri close. And then, in the distance, the faint sound of footsteps. Not rushed, not frantic, but steady. Closer, closer, closer. Zuri's blood ran cold. He had entered through the side path. He was inside the estate, and he was walking straight toward the house. The footsteps grew clearer, each one slicing through the silence like a blade. Zuri felt her legs weaken instantly. Her entire body trembled as though the fear trapped inside her since the first day was now rising to the surface all at once. Adewale moved in front of her and Amara, becoming a barrier between them and the approaching danger. His jaw tightened, his chest rising and falling in deep, steady breaths. He was preparing himself, not to fight, but to protect. Amara wrapped both arms around Zuri and whispered soft prayers between trembling breaths. "You are covered. You are protected. Nothing will touch you today." Zuri's heart pounded violently as the footsteps grew nearer. She couldn't see him yet, but she could feel him. A cold wave rolled down her spine, an instinct she couldn't silence. Adewale leaned toward the door and listened carefully. The footsteps paused near the walkway. He didn't move. None of them moved. Even the air seemed frozen in place. Then, the faint rustle of gravel. A slow exhale. A presence too close. Zuri let out a small, terrified whisper. "He's right outside." Adewale motioned for silence. The house sat still, holding its breath with him. Then a voice floated through the crack beneath the door. Not angry, not shouting, not pounding. Just a voice. Low, calm, unsteady. "Zuri." Zuri's heart shattered. Her knees buckled instantly. Adewale grabbed her hand. "Don't respond." But the voice continued, trembling with a desperate kind of sadness. "Zuri, I know you're in there." Zuri pressed both hands against her ears, tears running freely down her cheeks. She didn't want to hear him. She didn't want to feel anything for him. Not sympathy, not confusion, not fear, but her body reacted anyway. Adewale stepped closer to the door, speaking with calm authority. "You shouldn't be here. Leave before the patrol arrives." There was silence. Then Kelechi spoke again. "Adewale, I don't want trouble." His voice wavered. I need to talk to her. Please." Zuri shook her head violently and clung to Amara. No, I don't want to hear him." Amara kissed the side of her head gently. You won't speak to him." Adewale spoke louder. "She does not want to talk to you. You need to leave." Another silence. Then Kelechi exhaled shakily. "I know she hates me. I know I messed up. I know I lost control. But everything is coming apart, Adewale. They called me. The police called me. They want me to come in. Zuri reported me." Zuri trembled harder. Kelechi's voice cracked. "I'm not here to shout. I'm not here to break anything. I'm not here to hurt her. I just need her to tell me that she didn't do this to destroy me. I need her to say it." Zuri covered her face. "Why is he doing this? Why is he making me listen to this?" Adewale's voice sharpened. "She owes you nothing." Kelechi breathed heavily. "I'm losing everything. My job, my family. People are looking at me like I'm a monster. I just need to understand why she did this. Why she wants to ruin my life." Zuri's had snapped up, eyes burning through tears. Ruin his life? Ruin his life? A fire she hadn't felt before flickered inside her chest. Adewale stepped closer to the door, voice stern. "She did not ruin your life. You ruined it yourself." Kelechi exhaled sharply. "No, you don't understand. None of you understand. I wasn't always like this. I lost control once, and she turned me into a villain." Zuri stood suddenly. Amara grabbed her arm. "My sister, don't." But Zuri shook her off gently. She wasn't going to open the door. She wasn't going to speak to him through it. But she stood. She stood because hearing those words, the denial, the shifting of blame, sparked something inside her that fear had buried. Her voice came out shaky but strong. "Adewale, move." Adewale turned, eyes wide. "Zuri." She nodded. "Move. I won't open the door. But I need to stand on my own 2 feet." Adewale hesitated, then stepped aside. Zuri stood behind him, not too close, not too far. Amara held her left hand. Kalechi's shadow was visible beneath the door. He spoke again, his voice low, defeated, almost unrecognizable. "Zuri, please. I know everything is falling apart. I know. I scared you yesterday. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to. I just needed to see you." Zuri clenched her fists, her breath trembling. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to vanish. But instead, she whispered through her tears, so softly no one outside could hear. "Why do you think of all this before you hurt me?" As if he sensed her movement, Kalechi leaned closer to the door. "Zuri, say something. Please. Just tell me you didn't do this to destroy me. I need to hear that." Zuri's tears streamed uncontrollably. Adewale raised his voice. "She will not talk to you. Leave now." Kalechi's breathing grew fast and uneven. "I'm begging you. Just open the door. Just for a second. Just let me look into her eyes and understand." A sudden noise cut him off. The roar of a patrol car engine, approaching fast. Kalechi exhaled in panic. No, not now." Adewale's voice hardened. "Leave. Now." Kalechi stepped back from the door. Zuri trembled, listening to his footsteps retreating quickly toward the side path. Adewale rushed the window. "He's running." Amara gasped. "The police have turned onto this street." 2 officers jumped out of the patrol vehicle. They shouted his name once, firm, commanding. He froze. Zuri couldn't see him, but she heard it. The fear, the defeat, the collapse. His voice cracked. "Please, I just needed to talk to her." The officers didn't entertain his excuses. They approached him, spoke to him, held his arms, guided him toward the vehicle. Not violently, not aggressively, but with finality. Zuri's breath broke. She leaned against Amara as tears poured from her eyes. Tears of fear, of exhaustion, of shock, and something else. Relief. Adewale whispered from the window, his voice low and filled with emotion. "They're taking him." Zuri's knees weakened. Amara held her tightly. "It's over, my sister, it's finally over." Zuri pressed her trembling hand to her chest. For the first time in a long time, she believed it. Not fully, not perfectly, not without doubt, but she believed it. The house was silent long after the patrol car disappeared down the state road with Kalechi inside. It wasn't the tense silence that had filled the rooms in earlier days. It wasn't the kind that squeezed Zuri's lungs or made her heartbeat feel too loud. This silence was different, heavier in a way, yes, but also calmer, like the air itself finally allowed her to breathe without fear. Zuri sat on the couch, her palms pressed to her face, tears still sliding between her fingers. Amara stayed beside her, one arm wrapped firmly around her shoulders. Adewale stood near the window, watching the empty street with cautious eyes, as if expecting the world to return to what it once was. But nothing would ever be the same again. Something had shifted permanently. Something in the house, something in the air, something inside Zuri herself. Adewale finally stepped away from the window, exhaling slowly. "They said they'll call me once they get to the station," he said, his voice quiet but steady. "He will be questioned today. Deep questioning." Zuri nodded weakly, without lifting her head. She was exhausted, emotionally, physically, spiritually. But beneath all that exhaustion, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. It was fragile, yes, like a thin glass just starting to form. But it was there, real, breathing. Amara stroked her back gently. "My sister, you stood strong. You faced a moment most people would run from. You survived." Zuri lowered her hands and wiped her cheeks. "I didn't feel strong. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning." "And yet you didn't break," Amara whispered. "That is strength." Zuri leaned into her, resting her head on Amara's shoulder. Her body trembled lightly, her breath uneven, but she was upright, awake, alive. Adewale walked over and sat opposite them. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, hands clasped tightly together. "I need to tell you something," he said. Zuri raised her head slowly. "What is it?" Adewale hesitated, choosing his words with care. When the officer called before they took him, he said something important. He said that because Kalechi tried to enter the estate through the side path, avoiding security, it counts as deliberate trespassing under a police watch. That's serious. Very serious. Zuri felt her breath hitch. Does that mean he might be charged? Adewale nodded slowly. It means they have enough grounds for legal action beyond just warnings. It means this doesn't rest on you anymore. The law is involved now. Zuri stared at her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. I never wanted him arrested. I never wanted things to get this far. I just wanted him to leave me alone. I know, Adewale said gently. But sometimes the law has to step in before something irreversible happens. Zuri swallowed hard, the truth sinking into her chest. What will happen to him now? Adewale shook his head. We don't know yet. It depends on what they find. It depends on how he answers. It depends on what the officer decides. Zuri closed her eyes. I'm scared of what happens after this. Adewale reached across the table and held her hand. Whatever happens next, you won't face it alone. Zuri nodded slowly. Time passed. A quiet hour of sitting, breathing, processing. Then Adewale's phone buzzed. All three of them jumped slightly. Adewale picked it up immediately. It's the officer. Zuri's heart slammed against her ribs. Adewale answered. Hello, yes, officer. Okay, we understand. We'll wait for further instructions. He ended the call. Zuri stared at him. What did he say? Adewale exhaled. They're still questioning him. It may take a while, depending on his responses. They'll call back when there's progress. Zuri nodded, feeling another wave of exhaustion wash over her. She leaned back on the couch, closing her eyes, letting the silence settle again. Hours passed. Zuri eventually fell asleep, deep, heavy, dreamless sleep, her head resting on Amara's lap. It was the first real rest her body had allowed in days, the first time her muscles relaxed completely. Amara stroked her hair softly the whole time, whispering quiet prayers under her breath. Adewale stepped outside to take a call, carefully closing the door behind him so he wouldn't wake Zuri. But Zuri did wake, not from noise, but from the heaviness in her chest gradually lifting. When she blinked awake, she found Amara watching her with soft eyes. You slept, Amara said gently. Zuri sat up slowly. How long? Almost 2 hours. Zuri's eyes widened. 2 hours? I haven't slept for that long since. Amara smiled. Since peace left your heart. Maybe now it is returning. Zuri took a deep breath, surprised by how steady it felt. Where's Adewale? Outside, Amara said. He didn't want to wake you. Zuri stood slowly, stretching her stiff body. When she moved toward the front door, she heard Adewale's voice through the wooden frame, low, serious, focused. Are you sure? Yes, she's safe. Okay, we will wait. Zuri gently opened the door. Adewale turned immediately. Their eyes met. He ended the call and put the phone in his pocket. Zuri stepped closer. What happened? Adewale swallowed. That was the officer. Zuri's heart picked up speed. Is he okay? Adewale took a breath. They're keeping him for now. They're not releasing him yet. Zuri froze. Not releasing him? Why? Adewale held her gaze. Because there's more to his behavior than we thought. More than even Chinita knew. Zuri's mouth went dry. More? Like what? Adewale hesitated, then said it. He broke something in his house this morning. Something big. And when the officers asked him about your case, he reacted strongly. Too strongly. Zuri's hands began to tremble again. What does that mean? It means, Adewale said quietly, he wasn't just desperate. He was unraveling. Zuri pressed a hand to her chest. So what happens now? Adewale took her hand. They said they'll call again soon. But right now, they want you to stay indoors. No going out. Not until they determine what he needs. Zuri blinked. What he needs? Yes, Adewale said gently. Because this might not be only a legal matter anymore. It might be something else. Zuri felt confusion and fear swirl inside her. What do you mean? Adewale spoke softly. They think he may need medical evaluation. Zuri's breath broke. Medical evaluation. Not prison. Not court. Something deeper. Something more dangerous. Something more unpredictable. Amara stepped closer, her face full of concern. My sister. This is bigger than we thought. Zuri covered her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. Not out of fear anymore, but from the shock of realization. Kelechi wasn't just angry. He wasn't just controlling. He wasn't just desperate. He was unraveling from the inside. And the storm she had feared might not have been about her at all, but about him reaching the edge of something far darker. Zuri stared at Adewale, the words echoing in her mind long after he finished speaking. Medical evaluation. Her breath trembled. The phrase carried a weight she wasn't prepared for. She had expected anger. She had expected denial. She had expected lies, avoidance, or even desperate apologies. But she hadn't expected this, an unraveling so deep that even the police believed something was wrong beyond rage or manipulation. Amara stepped closer to Zuri, placing a soft hand on her back. My sister, are you okay? Zuri swallowed hard. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel right now. Adewale exhaled. You're not supposed to feel anything specific. This is heavy news. Anyone would need time to process it. Zuri shook her head slowly. But what does it mean? What does it change? Does it mean all of this wasn't real? That what he did wasn't his fault? Adewale's expression tightened. He walked to her and placed a firm but gentle hand on her shoulder. Zuri, listen to me very carefully. Nothing, absolutely nothing, changes what he did to you. Whether he is unstable or not, whether he needs help or not, it doesn't erase the pain he caused. It doesn't erase the fear. It doesn't undo the harm. Amara nodded emphatically. Your pain is still valid. Your experience is still real. Zuri closed her eyes, tears gathering. I don't want to feel pity for him. I don't want to confuse myself. I don't want to reopen wounds. You won't, Adewale said. This is not about pity. It's about understanding what the police are dealing with. His behavior crossed into something dangerous, not only for you, but maybe even for himself. Zuri took a small, shaky breath. So what happens now? Adewale sighed. The police said they'll evaluate him first. They want to understand if his behavior was driven by fear, anger, or something deeper, something psychological. They're taking this seriously. Zuri leaned against the wall for support. I don't know how to feel about this. You don't have to feel anything right now, Amara whispered. You're in shock. That's normal. Zuri nodded slowly. But shock didn't fully describe what she felt. It was something else. A mixture of sadness, fear, confusion, and a deep exhaustion that weighed on her bones. The three of them moved back inside the living room. Adewale paced, phone in hand. Amara brewed tea even though no one had asked for it. Zuri sat quietly, staring at her hands. Minutes stretched, then almost an hour. And then another call came. Adewale answered immediately. Hello, yes, officer. Okay, yes, she's here. He listened for several seconds. His posture stiffened. His eyes narrowed. His lips pressed together. Zuri watched him with a rising heartbeat. Adewale spoke quietly. I understand. Thank you, sir. He ended the call. Zuri stood. Adewale, what did he say? Adewale walked toward her slowly, his face calm but serious. The evaluation results are not final yet, he began, but they're leaning toward one conclusion. Zuri held her breath. Adewale continued. The officer said Kelechi's behavior from this morning and the last 2 days shows signs of psychological breakdown. Zuri's eyes widened. Breakdown? Yes, Adewale said softly. Not just anger, not just control, a complete emotional collapse. Amara gasped softly. Oh, Lord. Zuri whispered. What does that mean for him? For me? Adewale took both her hands gently. It means he's not being released today. They want to keep him for observation. Zuri's knees nearly gave out. Amara held her from behind. He's not coming back, Adewale continued. Not today. Probably not tomorrow. They're keeping him in a safe, controlled environment. Zuri swallowed a sob. So, I'm safe. Adewale nodded. Yes, you are safe. Zuri felt her heart loosen, her body sagging with relief she had waited so long to feel. Her tears flowed freely now, not from fear, but from the first real taste of freedom. But the officer had said something else, something that still hung in the air like a silent warning. Adewale took a breath and continued. There is one more thing the officer mentioned. Zuri wiped her tears. What? Adewale hesitated. They said his breakdown didn't start yesterday or today. It's been building for a long time. They think something triggered it recently. Something bigger than just your report. Zuri blinked slowly. Bigger? Like what? Adewale shook his head. They don't know yet. They're investigating. But they believe he's been under severe stress, maybe hiding something, maybe dealing with something dark alone. Zuri felt a cold ripple move down her spine. Is it because of the report? No, Adewale said. They said this started long before that. Zuri lowered herself onto the couch. I didn't know anything was wrong. I didn't see any signs. Adewale sat beside her because he didn't want you to. People who hide pain or guilt become masters at pretending. Zuri whispered. So all this time, he was falling apart. Adewale nodded gently, and instead of seeking help, he took it out on you. Zuri closed her eyes. I don't know how to process this. You don't have to, Adewale said. Not today. Today, you just breathe. Amara held Zuri's hand. You are free from him right now. That is enough. Zuri exhaled shakily, leaning her head on Amara's shoulder again. For the first time in days, she felt the weight lifting. Not completely, not permanently, but enough that she could sit without shaking. Enough that she could breathe without choking. Enough that she could think without fear clouding every thought. But the relief was mixed with something else. Something unexpected. Sadness. Not for him, but for everything that had been lost. For the years of pretending. For the pain she carried. For the silence she endured. For the truth she never saw coming. Adewale broke the silence. The officer said something that stood out. Zuri lifted her head slightly. What? He said sometimes people fall apart, right when life forces them to face themselves. Zuri stared at the floor. Maybe the danger had been real. Maybe the fear had been justified. But maybe, just maybe, the monster she had been running from these past days wasn't only a man trying to control her. It was a man losing control of himself. The house grew quiet again, but not the suffocating kind of silence filled with fear or expectation. This silence felt like an exhale, soft, fragile, but peaceful in a way Zuri hadn't felt in days. She sat on the couch with her fingers intertwined, staring at nothing and everything all at once. Adewale and Amara watched her closely, both waiting for her to speak, to react, to breathe through the moment in her own way. Instead, Zuri remained still, as though listening to the echoes in her mind. Finally, after what felt like minutes of stillness, she spoke. He wasn't always like this, she said quietly. Adewale leaned slightly forward. Zuri. She shook her head. No, let me say it. I need to say it. She inhaled shakily. He wasn't always like this. When we started talking, he was calm, patient, gentle even. He laughed easily. He cared deeply. I thought I knew him. Her voice cracked slightly. Amara took her hand. My sister, people change. Zuri blinked slowly. No, people reveal themselves. Slowly, quietly, eventually. Adewale nodded gently. That's true. Zuri looked down at her fingers. I keep asking myself where it started. When the first sign appeared. When the first red flag showed. When he first raised his voice or his hand. Her breath wavered. Maybe it wasn't sudden. Maybe it was happening long before I admitted it. Maybe I didn't want to believe it. Amara squeezed her hand. We always see things clearly only when we're far away from them. Zuri's eyes softened with tears. He controlled me subtly. Bit by bit, he made me doubt myself. He made me afraid of simple things, like speaking up, like disagreeing, like telling someone the truth. Adewale whispered, that is how control works. Zuri nodded. I thought I was strong enough to handle him. I thought I could fix him. I thought love meant enduring anything. Amara's voice trembled. You don't fix a wildfire with a cup of water. You run. You protect yourself. Zuri closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek. I didn't run early enough. But you ran, Adewale said firmly. You ran when it mattered. That's what counts. Zuri opened her eyes again, the weight on her chest gradually loosening. I never imagined it would end like this. With police. With warnings. With him being evaluated. I thought, worst case, he would shout and leave. Not all of this. Adewale sighed softly. None of us expected it. But the truth is, this wasn't about you alone. He was carrying something. Anger, pain, secrets. Something he hid well. Something that exploded recently. Zuri swallowed hard. And now he's gone. Adewale nodded. For now, he's not being released until they're certain he's stable. And even when he is released, he won't come near you. The restraining order will be in place. Zuri looked down. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't want him close. But I don't want him suffering either. Adewale's expression softened. Feeling compassion doesn't mean you want him back. It means you're human. Amara added gently. Fear and compassion can live in the same heart. There's nothing wrong with that. Zuri nodded slowly. She wasn't sure if the tears streaming down her face were from relief, sadness, or exhaustion. Maybe a little of all three. There was a soft knock on the door. Zuri stiffened instantly. Adewale stood quickly. Stay here. He approached the door cautiously, looked through the peephole, and relaxed slightly. It's the officer, he said. Zuri's heart thudded. Officer. Adewale opened the door slightly. A uniformed officer stepped inside with calm, reassuring presence. Good afternoon, he greeted politely. Zuri stood, wiping her face. Good afternoon. The officer stepped closer, his tone gentle. Ms. Zuri, I came to update you in person, so you don't worry unnecessarily. Zuri braced herself. We have decided to keep Mr. Kalechi for further observation, the officer said. He is not in a state to be released safely. For his protection and yours. Zuri let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. So he won't be back today? No, the officer replied. And realistically, not for several days. Possibly longer. He needs evaluation and stabilization. Adewale asked, Is he cooperating? The officer hesitated. Not exactly. He is confused, emotional, and struggling to understand the gravity of his actions. But he is not violent at the moment. Zuri's fingers shook faintly. Is he blaming me? The officer sighed softly. He fluctuates. Sometimes he blames himself. Sometimes he blames the situation. Sometimes he blames external pressures. But none of that changes anything. You are safe. Zuri nodded. Thank you, officer. We will handle the legal side. Officer continued. You focus on recovery. We will notify you of every step. Zuri lowered her gaze. I appreciate that. The officer offered a small, reassuring smile. Your case matters. Your safety matters. And your voice matters. He gave a polite nod and exited the house. Adewale locked the door behind him. Zuri sank slowly onto the couch, her body trembling with delayed emotion. It's really over for now. Adewale sat beside her. Yes, and you need to rest. Your body has been fighting for days. Amara wrapped her arms around her. You've been carrying fear like a stone in your chest. Now you can breathe. Zuri leaned into her. I can breathe, she whispered. I really can. For the first time in a long time, the tears in her eyes were not from fear, but from release. The chapter was not finished permanently. Healing was not complete. Justice was still unfolding. But the danger had passed. The threat was gone. And her heart, her brave, wounded, resilient heart, was safe in her chest again. A soft peace settled into the house. The storm had not disappeared, but it was moving away. And Zuri was still standing, still breathing, still alive, still rising. The next morning arrived softer than any morning Zuri had experienced in weeks. The sun rose quietly, casting a gentle warmth through the curtains. The air felt calmer, lighter, almost cleansing, as if the entire estate had exhaled with her. Zuri woke slowly, blinking against the pale golden light. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Her body felt unfamiliar, like someone who had run a marathon in the night. But then she looked around, the familiar room, the soft pillows, the sunlight, and she remembered. She was safe. For the first time in so long, safe. She sat up, letting her feet rest on the cool floor. Her heart, though still bruised, beat steadily. Not in panic, not in fear, but in a calm, quiet rhythm she had missed desperately. She stepped into the living room to find Adewale awake, sitting on the couch with his phone in hand. He looked up immediately, his expression softening. "You slept," he said gently. Zuri nodded. It felt like the first real sleep I've had in a year. Adewale smiled slightly. "Your body needed it. Your mind, too." Amara walked out from the kitchen, holding a tray with hot tea, the aroma soothing the room instantly. "Good morning," she said with a small, warm smile. Zuri hugged her. "Good morning." "Sit and drink," Amara urged. "You need strength for today." Zuri frowned slightly. "What is today?" Adewale exchanged a look with Amara before speaking. "The officer said they'll finalize a restraining order today, and he will call you personally to explain what happens next." Zuri's throat tightened slightly, but not from fear, more from the weight of finality slowly descending on her. "I'm ready," she whispered. And she meant it. For once, she truly meant it. After breakfast, Zuri stepped outside onto the small veranda. She wanted to feel the morning air on her skin, to remind her body that it wasn't trapped anymore. The breeze carried the faint smell of fresh earth and distant cooking from neighboring houses. The estate echoed with small morning noises, children preparing for school, women greeting each other, someone sweeping a driveway. Life was happening again. Normal life. Zuri leaned against the railing and let the breeze brush her cheeks. Her heart softened, her breath deepened. Amara joined her quietly. "How do you feel?" Zuri didn't answer immediately. She touched her chest. Lighter, but not fully. Safe, but still processing. Strong, but tired. Amara smiled gently. "Healing is not a switch. It's a journey." Zuri nodded. "Yesterday, I felt like the ground beneath me was cracking. Today it's still uneven, but I can stand." Adewale joined them with his phone. "The officer said he'll call any moment now." Zuri inhaled deeply. "I'm ready." As if on cue, the phone rang. Zuri jumped slightly. Adewale answered. "Hello. Yes, officer, she's here." He handed Zuri the phone. Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed it to her ear. "Good morning, sir." The officer's voice was calm, professional, reassuring. "Good morning, Ms. Zuri. I wanted to update you personally. We have completed the initial evaluation of Mr. Kelechi." Zuri held her breath. There were clear indicators of emotional and psychological instability. The officer continued. "He is not being released today. He will remain under observation and supervision." Zuri's shoulders dropped in relief. "Thank you, sir. We will also finalize a restraining order," the officer said. "Once he is discharged, whenever that may be, he will not be allowed near you, legally or physically." Zuri nodded. "I understand." "There's one more thing," the officer added gently. "Kelechi asked to send you a message. Not directly. Through us." Zuri froze. "A message?" "Just one sentence," the officer said. He said, "Tell her I'm sorry I scared her." Zuri's breath shook. She didn't speak. She couldn't. The officer continued, "You don't need to respond. This is just for your awareness." Zuri finally whispered, "Thank you." The call ended. She handed the phone back to Adewale, her expression unreadable. Adewale touched her shoulder. "Are you okay?" Zuri whispered. He apologized. Amara frowned softly. "My sister, be careful how your heart receives that." Zuri nodded. "I know. I'm not saying I forgive him. I'm not saying it fixes anything. But hearing it, even indirectly, feels like something shifted." Adewale exhaled. Maybe this is his first moment of clarity in a long time. Zuri nodded slowly. Maybe. She sat on the veranda chair and stared at the sky. The clouds moved gently across the blue canvas, drifting freely unburdened. Zuri exhaled deeply, letting her heart beat slow. Something inside her felt warm, alive, reawakening. After a long silence, she spoke again. I want to rebuild my life. Adewale sat beside her. You will? Zuri looked at her hands. Hands that had trembled, struggled, clenched in fear. Now they were still, resting. I want to start with forgiveness, she whispered. Amara's eyebrows rose. Forgiveness? Zuri nodded slowly. Not for him. For me. I don't want to carry the fear anymore. Or the shame. Or the guilt. Or the anger. I don't want to be tied to him emotionally. Forgiving frees me, not him. Adewale smiled softly. That is strength. Zuri wiped a tear. I thought forgiving would make me weak. But now I see it makes me free. Amara hugged her gently. My sister, your heart is healing. Zuri nodded. Yes, one piece at a time. Adewale's phone buzzed again. He checked it and smiled. The officers will come by later with documents. After that, everything becomes official. Zuri didn't panic. For the first time, official things didn't scare her. They protected her. A new calm washed over her. Her journey wasn't finished. Her wounds weren't gone, but the storm had passed, and she was still here, living, breathing, standing, healing. The rest of the morning unfolded slowly, each minute feeling like a step away from the darkness she had lived through. Zuri sat quietly, occasionally sipping from her tea while watching the estate move around her. Children laughed on their way back from school. Someone played soft music in a nearby apartment. A woman hummed as she hung clothes on a line. Life was happening again, and Zuri was finally close enough to feel it. After a while, she stood and walked back inside. Her steps were steadier now, not rushed, not panicked, just steady. She found Adewale at the dining table, sorting through some documents, writing notes, organizing papers with his usual carefulness. He looked up when she entered. You look calmer, he said. Zuri nodded. I feel calmer in a strange way. Not fully healed, but grounded. Adewale smiled softly. Good. You deserve that. Zuri pulled out a chair and sat across from him. Can I ask you something? Of course. She hesitated. Do you think he can come back from this? Adewale leaned back in his chair. As a person? Yes, if he gets help. If he accepts responsibility. If he lets himself unravel the way he needs to. But as far as your life goes, he shouldn't come back into it. Zuri nodded slowly. I'm not asking because I want him back. I don't. I spent so long trying to understand him, trying to make sense of his moods, trying to avoid triggering something in him. But now I see that none of this was ever about me. No, Adewale said gently. It wasn't about you. He was fighting demons you didn't create. Zuri lowered her gaze. And I was fighting a man I didn't fully know. Adewale nodded. Yes. Zuri inhaled deeply. It's painful, realizing I didn't see him clearly. But it's freeing too, because it means his choices were never my fault. Adewale's eyes softened. Exactly. Amara entered the living room carrying a folded blanket she'd washed and dried. Zuri, can I say something small? Zuri smiled faintly. Of course. Amara set the blanket down and approached her. When someone carries a broken spirit, they sometimes hide it behind charm, behind confidence, behind control. People like that are hard to read because they don't want to be understood. They want to be obeyed. Zuri's heart clenched slightly. I obeyed him too much. You survived him, Amara corrected gently. That is different. Tears welled in Zuri's eyes. I have so much healing to do. And you will do it, Amara said, squeezing her hand, little by little. Zuri nodded, swallowing emotion. Hours later, in the early afternoon, the officer returned, just as he promised. He came with official documents in a brown envelope. Adewale invited him inside, and Zuri stood beside Amara as the officer explained everything calmly. He handed Zuri the restraining order. This document means he cannot come within a certain distance of you. He cannot call you. He cannot message you. He cannot send anyone to speak on his behalf. Zuri nodded slowly, holding the paper with trembling hands. The officer continued, "We will notify him of this once he is stable enough to understand. But this protects you legally from this moment forward." Zuri blinked back tears. "Thank you. You're safe?" the officer said, "and we'll check in regularly." He left shortly after, and Adewale locked the door behind him. Zuri sat on the couch, staring at the restraining order. It wasn't just a paper. It was a new beginning, a shield, a boundary she had never been allowed to have before. She whispered, "I feel free." Adewale sat beside her. "You are." Amara joined them with a small smile. "Your life starts again now. A new chapter." Zuri exhaled deeply, letting the truth settle inside her. "A new chapter," she repeated softly. As the afternoon turned to evening, a soft harmony filled the house. Peace, steadiness, warmth. Zuri found herself in the kitchen helping Amara cook jollof rice, chopping vegetables carefully while Amara seasoned the onions. Adewale played soft music from his phone, humming quietly from the living room. It felt normal. Not perfect, not fully healed, but normal, and that was enough. That evening, they sat together at the table and ate. Zuri felt the warmth of the food in her chest, the kindness in the room around her. She laughed for the first time in days, just a soft laugh, a small moment, but it was real, and it surprised her. Adewale looked up with a smile. "You're laughing." Zuri covered her mouth. "I'm trying." "No," he said warmly. "You're healing." After dinner, Zuri stepped outside again, watching the sky darken into a deep blue. The estate lights flickered on, glowing softly along the pathways. She leaned against the railing and closed her eyes. She wasn't thinking about Kalechi. She wasn't thinking about fear. She wasn't thinking about the door rattling or footsteps or shouting. She was thinking about her future. When she opened her eyes, Adewale stepped beside her. "Are you okay?" Zuri nodded. "Yes, truly." A moment of quiet passed. Then she asked, "Can I tell you something?" He faced her. "Anything." Zuri's voice trembled slightly. "I don't feel like a victim anymore." Adewale's smile widened gently. "Because you aren't." Zuri blinked slowly, letting that truth fill her spirit. "I survived something terrible, but it didn't destroy me." "No," Adewale said softly. "It didn't." Zuri looked up at the sky again, and I think, I'm ready to start rebuilding everything he tried to break. Adewale placed his hand on her back. "Then we start tomorrow, step by step. Your life is yours again." Zuri's eyes softened. "Yes, it is." As the night grew deeper, she stood in the quiet air, letting the cool breeze brush against her face. Her heart had bruises. Her mind had wounds. But her spirit was rising. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Night settled gently over the estate, painting the sky with shades of deep blue and soft purple. The stars peeked through the clouds, faint but present, like tiny reminders that even in darkness, light still existed. Zuri remained outside for a long while, absorbing the coolness of the air, the quietness around her, the new peace building in her chest. For so many days, nights had meant fear. Darkness had meant danger. Every sound had made her jump. Every shadow had carried a threat. But tonight was different. Tonight, the darkness wasn't her enemy. It was simply the sky settling to rest. Adewale stepped outside again, leaning against the railing near her. He didn't speak at first. He simply stood beside her, sharing the quiet. After a moment, he asked softly, "What are you thinking about?" Zuri took a deep breath before answering. "How far I've come. How much I've survived. How different this moment feels." Adewale nodded. "You've been strong in ways most people will never understand." Zuri shook her head gently. "No, I wasn't always strong. I was scared. I was confused. I made mistakes. I stayed longer than I should have." "That doesn't make you weak," Adewale said. It makes you human. Zuri looked at him with soft, grateful eyes. Thank you for everything. You don't need to thank me, he replied. I did what any decent person would do. Zuri looked down at her hands, a habit she had carried for years. But tonight, she lifted her head again quickly, catching herself. She was done living with bowed shoulders. I want my life back, she whispered. Adewale nodded. And you're taking it back. Zuri inhaled deeply. The healing wasn't complete. She knew that. There would be nights she'd wake shaking. There would be memories that stung. There would be echoes of fear that lingered in the corners of her mind. But healing wasn't perfection. Healing was movement. And tonight, she felt herself moving forward. When they went back inside, Amara was arranging blankets on the couch. Tomorrow we will cook something nice for you, she said with a smile. Something sweet, something that reminds you of joy. Zuri's eyes warmed. You've been my strength. Amara hugged her tightly. Sisterhood is strength. Later, after Amara retired for the night, Zuri found herself sitting alone in the living room with only the soft lamp illuminating the space. She held the restraining order in her hands. Not in fear, but in acceptance. This paper represented more than legal protection. It represented a boundary, a new beginning, a line drawn for her safety, her healing, her future. She whispered to herself, I survived a storm I didn't see coming. At some point, her phone vibrated. She stiffened for a split second. Old instincts. But she forced herself to breathe before checking. It was a message from the officer. He is stable for now. You are safe tonight. We will update you tomorrow. Zuri closed her eyes in relief. She wasn't waiting in fear anymore. She was receiving updates in peace. She typed back, Thank you. She turned off the phone, placed it on the table, and let out a slow, steady breath. Adewale walked in again, noticing her thoughtful expression. Are you scared? Zuri shook her head. No, not scared, just reflective. And what do you see? Zuri leaned back against the couch and spoke softly. I see a woman who almost lost herself, but didn't. I see a woman who broke, but didn't stay broken. I see someone who thought she was weak, but found strength inside fear. Adewale smiled. That woman is you. Zuri looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time, she saw herself through someone else's eyes. Not as a victim, not as a fragile, trembling soul, but as someone rising from the ashes of her own pain. She whispered, I feel like I'm meeting myself for the first time. Adewale nodded. And she's worth knowing. Zuri wiped a tear, a quiet tear, a peaceful tear. I think so, too. The house grew quieter as the hour grew later. Adewale closed the curtains, checked the locks, and made sure everything was secure. He returned to the living room and looked at her one last time for the night. You're safe, Zuri, he said gently. You can rest. Zuri nodded. She stood, walked to her room, and paused at the doorway. For the first time, entering the room didn't bring tension to her chest. The quietness inside didn't scare her. The shadows on the walls didn't feel threatening. She switched on the bedside lamp, sat on the bed, and allowed herself a small smile. She was alive. She was healing. She was becoming herself again. Lying down, she let the blanket cover her, feeling its familiar warmth. As her eyes drifted shut, she whispered something to herself, a promise, a declaration, a truth. I'm free. For the first time in a long time, she slept deeply. No nightmares. No pounding footsteps. No fear pressing against her ribs. Just peace. And when morning would come, she knew it would not arrive with terror, but with hope